Hello and welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and on this show we talk about truth, hope, and change. Three things of great importance in our world, and hopefully we can get some change that'll provide us with a much more reasonable way to live. On the show today we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca for the 420 session as always, and Jerry Martin will be here to join us for the Martin Medical Moment as well and talk about his journey to try to get justice eventually with his pursuit of low barrier access medical cannabis stores. And what I want to talk about today is the lies and the truth. And I mean, the lies have been going on for a long time. If you look back on the history of it, when I first came into this movement, we learned that what people were being told way back in the 30s about cannabis, they didn't call it cannabis, they called it marijuana. That was the first one. That marijuana kills people, that marijuana causes violence, that it's addictive, that it impedes your brain growth and development, that it causes cancer, that it makes people lazy, that it makes people stupid, that it causes sexual dysfunction and a low sperm count. One guy testified under oath that 2 puffs and he turned into a bat. And other people were told that cannabis will grow breasts on men. And there was numerous other lies and myths about cannabis that were all just these horrible fear-mongering tales to try to keep people from wanting to use it, and so that the government could justify that they were going to use taxpayer dollars to try to prevent people from using it. But the truth is kind of the actual opposite at this point in time. We know so much more than we knew then. The studies are in, lots of things happen. The Ledane Commission and the Schaefer Report in the States concluded that cannabis did not make people lazy or violent and insane. The next one, of course, was that it makes them lazy and stupid. That's what they came out with right after that. They had to have some other, logical reason for spending tax dollars to make sure that people don't use this plant. And so, they came up with that. Cannabis in the end turns out it's a violent suppressor. It's a love drug. It helps people be calm and relaxed. Alcohol is a violence-inducing drug. If someone's having a fight with their wife and they go out to the garage and have a few belts of some alcohol to empower them to go back in and do some violence to her, that's a regularly occurring thing in our society, but not with cannabis. Cannabis, if a couple are having a fight and the husband goes out and smokes some reefer out in the garage, calms down, realizes things, puts things into perspective, goes back in and hugs his wife. That's happened so many times. It's happened to me many, many times in my relationships over time, to have a puff and think about things and calm down and realize that love is the answer and all that stuff. So cannabis does not cause violence. It doesn't make people insane. It doesn't cause people to rape. They said it gave you super strength as well. It's not physically addictive. You can stop using cannabis anytime you want. Most people that are using it don't want to quit using it. It gives them a good benefit in their life. They really value it, and especially if it's helping them with pain or other serious issues, it becomes difficult to stop something that's helping you. It'd be like having a broken leg and deciding that, well, I think on Thursday I'm just not going to use my crutch because it's a crutch. You don't need a crutch. Well, yeah, you do need a crutch. You got a broken leg. And if somebody's using cannabis for something that is of value to them, a medical condition of some sort, it literally would be like, not taking the medicine that would give you relief that day. And so you want to keep using it. But it's not physically addictive in the way that, say, opioids are, where opioids build an internal neural network that needs to be continually fed and increased. And to try to stop using opioids when you've been using them on a daily basis for a while is very difficult. There's a physical barrier to doing that. You get very sick, and it's a horrible experience to have physically. There's none of that with cannabis at all. Cannabis improves people's brain function. It's a big part of our own immune system. It's in mother's milk. It's something that babies need. I mean, children develop because of the endocannabinoid system overseeing the other bodily systems, the other 11 systems. And so that cannabis definitely is an asset and improves people's function, not just with the brain, but with everything else. In fact, cannabis is used by some of the smartest, most creative people on the planet and throughout history, and has been for forever. It is definitely a medium that allows people to think creatively, and so it isn't something that causes people to be dumber. It's something that actually smart people use. It's smart to use cannabis, and it can really give you some insights and abilities to be creative and many other things. I mean, if used properly, of course, like anything else. You can use too much cannabis, and then you're not really capable of functioning there that well at all. Depending on how you ingest it, if you eat a bunch of edibles, you're probably not going to write your essay that afternoon. But a few puffs on some nice sativa before you start writing that essay, and the thoughts and the words will flow. And that's been common for many people for a long time, for me as well. A little too much, and I'm rereading that same paragraph in that book over again for the 4th time. But the right amount, and I'm right into that story, I'm right into whatever it is I'm learning, and the book flows right into my brain. So cannabis does not cause cancer. In lots of cases, cannabis treats cancer. It's been known to be able to cure cancer in some cases with some cancers. It's certainly able to mitigate many of the symptoms and the problems to do with not just the cancer, but some of the other cancer treatments as well. So it allows people to calm their stomach down and not feel nauseous after chemo or other things like that. It's got lots of applications that help with respect to cancer. It does not cause cancer. Nor does it make people lazy. I mean, athletes use cannabis. I used cannabis. Before I played hockey, I'd smoke a joint, and I'd be out there playing as fierce as I would any other time, more so, because right into the game. It allows me to focus. Cannabis is a focusing tool when used properly. So all these lies that they told before, now here we are generations later, and the truth is actually most of the opposite of these things. And you'll find out that the reason for that is that the powers that be were working very hard to annihilate cannabis from the scene. They didn't want it in the marketplace. They didn't want to have to compete with it. They wanted to be able to sell people pharmaceuticals. They didn't want hemp used for fuel. The cotton industry was raging on and didn't want hemp as a competitor. It goes on and on and on. William Randolph Hearst with his paper interests and all those other things. So another thing they said is it impedes sexual function. Well, no, it doesn't. Cannabis is an aphrodisiac. I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, I don't even have to say anything else about that. I mean, cannabis is really a tool for helping people, with sexuality, with getting into the mood for things, with many other things like that. I mean, of course it is. When the euphoric effects of THC kick in, I mean, sunsets are better, music is better, food is better, of course sex is better. So it's just crazy to say that it would impede sexual function. They wanted to scare people and say that men would start not producing enough sperm to have children. And that's certainly not the case at all. I mean, that's been disproven over and over again. That pregnant women would have trouble using cannabis. And yet that's proven not to be the case. Studies done in Jamaica, but even more important than that are the studies done in Canada here, and how many pregnant women are using cannabis here in Canada. If there were negative health impacts of using cannabis, if there was people that were going to hospital every day, if there were hospital wards full of people suffering the affliction of cannabis misuse, I mean, we would know about that, I'll tell you. It would be big time news, because these people that want to prohibit cannabis and want to annihilate it out of the marketplace so that they can profit off of other patentable things or the other reasons that they have that include, the prohibitionists and all that huge network and structure and mechanism that goes around busting people and arresting people and all the rest of that. And they're all making a whole bunch of money on that stuff. And all of those things, all those groups and all those people, they want the status quo. They want to continue prohibition because they're making money at it. It's making them money to have cannabis prohibited. So if there was any good reason to have cannabis regulated harshly or anything like that, we would know about it for sure. They tell a lot of lies about maybe it harms the developing brain of the child. But I mean, me and all of my friends don't like that very much, because we all used cannabis in our youth and extensively. And I don't have any friends that are brain damaged. I have a lot of friends that are pretty high functioning and have been all along. Those are the people I hang with. But cannabis never wiped out anybody's brains or caused them to not be able to function properly at all. It's a focusing tool, like I said, when used properly. And, cannabis doesn't turn people into bats. That was just a rumor. I mean, a guy did testify under oath to that. But lots of people have testified under oath to lots of things, and that doesn't mean they're not lying. He did not turn into a bat because of using cannabis. There again, Trillions of doses of cannabis have been taken around the world. If people were turning into bats, we'd know about it. People have cell phones. You know, you'd get pictures on the interweb regularly if cannabis was turning people into bats. It doesn't do that. But it does turn people into superheroes. You know, they used to say it gave people super strength, but they used to say that in a bad way. Because they'd say that you could rape and do all kinds of damage, and it would take 6 cops to pin you down and all the rest of that. Sounds like cocaine psychosis or something like that more than cannabis. It's certainly not cannabis, that's for 100% sure. But cannabis does turn people into superheroes. Cannabis turns people into people who care about their environment. They care about what's going on. They care about other people. Cannabis is a tool for people to improve their compassion. We find it all the time. The cannabis community is a very loving, caring community, and it's a whole bunch of people that really go out of their way to try to make the world a better place. Cannabis activists have been working really hard with very little reward because cannabis activists get to smoke weed. We're not really oppressed by the cops at that point, but we keep on fighting, and there's lots of personal reasons why people fight for things. But there's lots of people in the cannabis community that just care about other people. They care that there's other people in prison. They don't like that. They can't stand that. They won't stand for that. And there's lots of cannabis activists that are out there working just because they can't stand the fact that we as a society are putting people into cages for simply choosing to use a herb because they believe it's going to help make them feel better. So cannabis definitely turns people into superheroes. And I'm totally witness to that as I get to see the myriad of people that have come forward through the 4.5 years that we've been running the Cannabis Substitution Program completely on donations. And the amount of people that donate is phenomenal. And the way that they donate, the way that they do it without any care for themselves, but they're absolutely focused on, they just want to help. They just want to make the world a better place. So I don't think drunks are out there making the world a better place. I think cannabis activists are out there making the world a better place. So cannabis does turn people into superheroes, but not bats. And no, you won't grow breasts. I personally, found that maybe it enhanced my appreciation of breasts. But, I know there was times we contemplated maybe it would be a good idea to grow some breasts. I mean, if I had my own, that might make access a little easier. but no, cannabis does not grow breasts for people. What cannabis does do is just about anything that you might need done for you that is in respect to your physical ailments and problems. And the reason for that, I think it's a deep reason. I think that the reason really is that we have a relationship with this plant that goes back millennia, to far, far way beyond back to before there was upright primates walking on the planet, certainly before we were building cars. But I think that the symbiotic relationship that we have with the cannabinoids on the cannabis plant, cannabinoids are found in nature. They're on hops and they're on other plants in your garden. In small quantities for the most part. They are abundant on the cannabis plant. And the cannabis plant for thousands of years has been recognized by cultures all around the world as a plant that has great medicinal value. And I think that we could safely say that the reason that not just the human body, but all the vertebrates on the planet have what has been named an endocannabinoid system, an interior system of cannabinoid production by the human body that is there to address all of the different problems that arise within any of the 11 systems of the body and the not just the human body, but in the human body is what we're talking about. So that it's there to send out anti-inflammatories when necessary, analgesics when necessary. It's there to do all of those things that keep the body functioning properly, the right balance within all of the systems. And that's an extremely important role. I mean, as a supervisor of a job site, I can tell you that without somebody doing my job, and that's what I did for a long time before I was an activist, that the job site wouldn't function at all. Somebody's got to be there to coordinate all of these different aspects of things. When the plumbers have a problem that involves the carpenters, somebody's got to be there to go and put the carpenters and the plumbers together. When any sub-industry has an issue that involves some of the other sub-industries, they've got to have somebody, a manager, a supervisor, to go to coordinate all of these different things that have to happen. And that's exactly what the endocannabinoid system is doing for us. And so that's an incredibly important role that this plant plays in our health and well-being. So absolutely 100% opposite of just about everything they had to say in fear-mongering about cannabis is what the actual truth is. And I guess that's because if you're going to tell a lie, it's best to tell a really big lie, and you have a better chance of getting away with it. And in this case, they really told the biggest of lies, that the most beneficial plant to human life on this planet, they said, was something that needed to be annihilated through the criminal law right off the planet. That's how upside down things became, because corporate interests, not government, corporate interests, the interests of the financial elite are so unethical that they resulted in this upside down backwards world where we have this amazing plant that does not kill people, it saves people's lives. It has been saving people's lives for a long time. It has been saving people from a lifetime of suffering in many cases, and that's certainly saving your life. But it's also saved people and given them much more quality time on this planet. I met a person that was out working in front of the shop here the other day. We had the city workers here, and one of the guys was telling me about his mother and how his mother started using cannabis edibles when she was given 7 months to live. And she lived 28 months after that, and she really enjoyed those 28 months with her family. So, there's numerous stories of how cannabis, especially in its really condensed form, something like that, no carbon, no plant matter, just pure medicine. This is serious medicine for people with serious conditions. When people are suffering from cancer, that's what they want to be getting into their body. And not just cancer, but many other serious ailments as well. And for less serious things, you can use less serious edibles, or you can smoke cannabis, or use it as a topical. And suppositories are really good for people that have digestive problems or colon cancer or things like that. So there's a whole bunch of really good applications for cannabis. And I haven't even touched CBD yet. This amazing cannabinoid that is predominant in hemp, as it turns out, because they selectively bred the THC out of hemp back in the Second World War for the war effort. But CBD doesn't even get you high. And that was the only thing they were really worried about, was the effects of marijuana. You see, marijuana is not CBD. Marijuana is not the other cannabinoids. Marijuana is not hemp. Cannabis is all of those things, but marijuana specifically is a made-up name for this plant called cannabis that is only applicable when the THC is present. So whenever they would seize, dried flowers from people, they would always send them to the lab for testing to see if it had THC. And if it didn't have THC, you were not in possession of marijuana. So marijuana was THC, but hemp is cannabis, and cannabis is all those other strains and types. Cannabis is just the main plant, and it comes in a variety of different forms with a variety of different combinations of cannabinoids and terpenes that dictate the different tastes, smells, and effects. 4:19, you got one more minute. I got one more minute. So yeah, it's this amazing plant that has all these different strains that are able to do so many different things. It comes in the form both as a relaxant in the indicas and the stimulants that we generally put in the sativa category. I'm not sure all of that is correct yet, but certainly it can be a relaxant depending on the strain and the person, and it can be a stimulant depending on the strain and the person. So in medicine, those are two very important things. The most important thing in medicine, of course, is anti-inflammatories, and cannabis is also an anti-inflammatory. But the bottom line to this is, we've been lied to about cannabis, harshly. A narrative that spun through the media and worked its way into all corners of our lives for many decades. And the truth is that cannabis saves lives. And cannabis can make your life better. And cannabis never killed anybody, and that can't be said about anything else in our environment that can be ingested. And yet here we are. Still, after turning around all of this information, our governments are still prohibiting reasonable access to cannabis, prohibiting what they are calling illegal cannabis, which is any cannabis that's not produced with government permission, with a whole bunch of hoops and things to go through and costs and fees and all of that. And poor people don't get access. And daily users can't afford it. And medical users can't have the extracts and the concentrations and the edibles that they need for their conditions, or certainly what I just showed you there. And this situation is beyond wrong. This situation is one of the most horrific situations. When you look at the amount of money that's been wasted, the amount of lives that have been ruined, and still going on today. And how many people have not been able to get access to a natural medicine that would have given them relief, that would have extended their lives in many cases, that would have benefited them in many ways, simply because governments have been co-opted and kidnapped by the financial and corporate elite who insist on prohibiting and restricting our access so that they can take advantage of us, take our money, exploit us, monopolize whatever they can. And our public servants are helping them do that. And I'll explain that a little later in the show as to what that means to us in trying to get permission to save people's lives here on the downtown east side. It's 4:20, that time of the day, twice a day, depending on your hours of sleep, where we gather together. Come on in, Glenn.
Yay.
Glenn Wells, CannaMatch.ca, my regular guest for the 420 session. And the 420 session is that most of important things. Talk about balance in your life. If you're not happy about a drug war or your lack of access to cannabis, you need to take a break every once in a while and smoke some cannabis and chill a little bit, you know.
Like we're going to do right now.
Right now, which we always have for all of our lives, be it illegal or legal, right?
Yep. And we want to thank that Canada Cannabis Center.
That's right.
For
You know,
providing our smoke today.
Canadian Cannabis Center,
Yep.
we talked about it last week, is an online service that you can access and get good cannabis. They've helped with donations to the Cannabis Substitution Program, and that's just fantastic, and we're very, very happy about that. When you're going to the site, make sure you read the fine print, make sure you read all of the details and understand how it works. That's my best advice.
Yes. And they're going to provide.
And we got cannabis from them right now.
And they're going to drop by next week and drop off some more for us too. So every
Nice.
420 we'll get to smoke something different.
Nice. And this week, for me, it's lemon haze.
Yeah, and I'm
that's
smoking
available on
Chem
the
Dog.
site, I would imagine.
You want to try the Chem Dog, or are you going to let it the lemon haze?
I have a puff of my own first.
All right, you do that.
I like mixing strains, though.
Now, isn't marijuana? Wasn't that they called it marijuana so that it would sound like a Mexican thing, and then it would be really, people would be.
They were using it as a racial tool.
Yes.
Against the Mexicans as well, and Chinese and other immigrants. So yeah. I guess that's why they chose that. It's hard to know how that came about, why they started calling it marijuana, because it was called cannabis before that. Yeah. Cannabis was well known throughout the United States at the time as a medicine. It was on medicine bottles. There was lots of different formulations, including cannabis indica. So all of a sudden they've got this crazy new drug that's come up from Mexico called marijuana. And nobody knows what that is, but they say it's really bad.
Oh, yeah.
It's causing all the people to go violent and insane and murder and rape, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's really the next scourge that's coming in that we need our government to protect us from. And so, but then by the time it got to hearings, there was Dr. Woodward back when they were discussing it in government about prohibiting it, and he went there on behalf of the medical profession, and he was like, no, do not do this. I mean, they weren't prohibiting it at that time. What they did was they imposed a tax. Mm. And it was a very prohibitive tax. It was very expensive, like $1 a ton or something, which was an incredible amount of money back then.
Yes.
And that was for the non-medical Indian cannabis that they had, that the doctors were using. The medical profession had been using cannabis, like I say, in all these formulations. And for that, I think it was $100.
Wow.
A ton or a pound, or I forget what it was, but it was at that time a prohibitive amount of money. It was going to mean that farmers couldn't grow it or wouldn't grow it, and that doctors couldn't get access to it. So he said, don't do this. We're using it for over half of our medical applications are to do with the cannabis plant. And they said, don't worry. The age of modern medicine has finally arrived, thanks to the Rockefellers. And now we've got all these, the plants and the herbs. That medicine is not really reliable, is what they said. They said that it's kind of voodoo medicine, that you can't. It's hard to put a standardized dose together, and all this stuff that they said. And they said, don't worry, we got it covered. We know that we're going to be able to cover all these things. We're going to have a pill for everything that's wrong with people. And that pill will be an absolute standardized dose. It'll be prescribed by doctors who have several years of intense training. And the Rockefellers took over. They took over the medical schools. They took over the... there was before there was drugstores with synthetic pharmaceuticals, there was drugstores that were herbal drugstores, and they had a variety of different plant medications that people used. And so the Rockefeller Institute, they hired a guy to do a study into these. Oh man, his name's going to come to me. It should.
After the
I
show.
must be getting old. But
that lemon haze is good, eh?
it is, I just had one puff. I was smoking that before.
One puff will do ya. There you go. Canada's Cannabis Center.
There was a report put out. There was a report put out that said all those things about the herbal medicine, that it was voodoo medicine, it couldn't be trusted, and now there was standardized doses. And what that the Flexner report, the Flexner is who did that, Dr. Flexner. And so his report, a very respected doctor came out and said, hey, everybody that's investing in medicine, because that's how all these things always run, is through investors. Back in those days, it's still today. And so what that did was all the investors, they took their money out of herbal drugstores, put it all into modern medicine, and so now Rockefeller sets up all these medical schools in the universities. He had his medical divisions attached to all the big universities, and they were just churning out doctors that were taught how to prescribe these pills that the Rockefellers were manufacturing in a partnership with not Pfizer.
No, I was going to say Pfizer.
Oh my God.
Oh my
it's
God.
Not
Moderna either.
The Canadian Center for Cannabis that's got me, it's a 420 session, because otherwise I'm sharp, folks.
You better try this.
And I'm kidding. I'm just kidding because I was talking about how it impedes brain function. It's not the cannabis that's impeding the brain function, although sometimes it can do that in funny ways. And that's always good, especially if you need to remember something that isn't much fun. You find yourself being distracted onto things that are fun. I do, anyway.
Yeah.
And so, this whole thing, it's not fun for me, this activism thing that I've been doing for a long time.
But it's rewarding.
I hope so.
It is.
I hope so.
Right out there is do I have to show you, dude?
I reward
out there
myself.
Is a band, and that's your reward. You're helping everybody every day. Just like I told Isabel, she looks at her wall and sees all her belts and her accomplishments. That's a wall of accomplishments.
It is.
You've got an RV of accomplishments. Sure. You've got 4 years of people still living today
we've got to hear.
Helped them.
We've got to hear.
You got rewarded.
We've got to hear. And there's certainly lots of things we've accomplished. Yes. Absolutely, I've had a hand in that. And
that's your reward. Great. You've helped people live.
But until we get low barrier access, I have not met my goal.
That'll be the joy day, right?
That'll be the joy. That's when I fall to my knees and I cry. Yeah. And it's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen. We're going to have that day one day. Yeah. We will get permission, and we will pave the way for permission, because that's what we're doing. That's what has to happen. That there needs to be low barrier access to cannabis for people. We cannot accept government-produced cannabis that is artificially priced way beyond the reach of poor people and daily users, that is profiting the very people that were putting us in jail and spending our tax dollars to ruin people's lives for all the decades before this. Those people need to be 100% boycotted in what they do. I'm glad they've turned a leaf. I'm glad they've decided that maybe helping people get cannabis is a good thing to do. Except that they're now part of this, I think it's an evil scam. Mm-hmm. This legalization that we have in Canada is not the legalization that we've been fighting for all of these years. It does not include most of the people that have been fighting for legalization, the growers and the sellers of cannabis who have been wanting to grow and sell cannabis because that's what they love doing, because people love getting cannabis and people love growing cannabis. And these people would love to be legal in growing cannabis. None of them like that they have to convince their wife that maybe they'll be okay and they might not get raided and have their house taken away or lose their kids or get fined or end up in jail and all the other bad things that can happen to people that are growing and selling cannabis outside of the system. None of them like that. They all want to be legal. They all want to be, standing up members of society that get patted on the back for helping people get what people want. That's what growers and sellers of cannabis want. And that's not what we got. We didn't want tax dollars wasted on going after people to find out if they're growing plants in their homes or not. We didn't want our tax dollars wasted on worrying about whether or not people have bags of dried flowers on them and that might end up them in jail or having their families destroyed because they lose their job and they got to go to court. And so many bad things have happened because of all this. We wanted all that to stop. That's what we were asking for.
Yeah.
That's what legalization is supposed to be
They didn't
about.
even listen to us. They just went to
They
their own
did the opposite. They hate us.
Yeah, they didn't listen. They didn't say, these guys were already set it up for us. We can make lots of tax money on this. Just let it go, right? But
the people that we've been fighting to get freedom and rights from all this time hate us.
Yeah.
This has been a war. And this is their next volley of shots against us is, hey, they said legalize and regulate. We can give them that.
Yeah.
We'll legalize and regulate. We'll legalize so they can have it, but we'll make it so that it's regulated so that only we get to produce it and only we get to sell it.
Yeah.
And then all these other people, because if you're growing cannabis and selling cannabis and you're illegal and the government comes along and says, hey, we got legalization here, but you're still going to be illegal, so you have to stop doing what you're doing. Well, no, they're not. No, they're not, because they were illegal before. Yeah. So there's no difference. Nothing changed for them.
No.
They're going to still grow cannabis. They love growing cannabis. They're going to still sell cannabis. They love selling cannabis. So that means that not only does the government now take over all the sales for the obedient people that'll go and buy off the government no matter what and think that's legalization, and all the disobedient people, us, the ones they've hated forever, we're still going to buy off the black market. We're still going to grow and sell cannabis, and they get to still come after us.
Yep.
And not only that, they get to break us all up.
And they can call themselves
They get to steal half of our people.
Yeah.
They get to steal half of our people by luring them away, by telling them that, hey, this legalization is good, man. People aren't getting arrested for cannabis having it in their pockets anymore. Yeah, you know what? I didn't say that the consumers were also, victims of this legalization because, yeah, they get to have cannabis and not going to get a criminal record. But guess what? They're still victims. Because the fine that they're paying by paying $18 a gram or even 10.
And now they're going to deliver it to you.
Yeah, I know.
And charge you more.
Yeah,
probably $20 on top of the 18 for that gram. So now you're paying like $38 for a gram of weed to be delivered to your house.
This stuff that your government said kills, causes violence, is addictive, impedes brain function, causes cancer, makes people lazy, makes people stupid, causes sexual dysfunction, low sperm count, turns people into bats, and grows breath. They're now selling it to you. They're mailing it to you. They'll deliver it to your door.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're making money selling it.
And they'll irradiate it and spray it with
to
chemicals.
make sure it's safe for you,
so that you won't die.
Yeah, but really, what that's about is they're going to irradiate it or do what it takes to kill the microbes.
Yeah.
Right? We're full of microbes. We have more cells of microbes that are not human cells in our body than human cells. We live with viruses, bacterium, and all of these things, and it's on all the fucking plants. It's in the air that you breathe. It's everywhere. And yet the government has decided that for your protection, even though no one was ever hurt by microbes on cannabis in the past ever, but for your protection, they're going to irradiate it, and they're going to chemically spray it if they don't irradiate it. You know why? Because they don't want it to be good. They don't want it to be helping people. They want statistics that don't show that it's of benefit to people. They're doing everything they can to still discredit cannabis while making as much money as they can off of it, while still making money by going after the people who aren't part of their fucking system. And prohibition is alive and well, and they've added infractions, they've added money for enforcement. This is draining our police resources. The number one reason why people are arrested in cannabis is for small-time cannabis offenses. This is ridiculous, folks. This is absolute criminal fucking abomination of what our free society should be going for here. This is the biggest example of how we are not free. Our politicians are corrupt, and we got to do something about it. So,
and your black market, a real market dealer will not charge you to deliver it to your home. They'll just charge you for the bag. You know,
they're doing what they can to keep costs down.
Yeah.
Even though they're still facing prosecution, seizure of property. All the things that they were facing before, which meant that the price was up at around $10 a gram for all this time, that's still in place for them.
And that money doesn't go to criminals. It goes to
lawyers,
the Canadian Tire store that they're buying their stuff from, in the grocery stores.
Absolutely, it's put back into the community
for the real market, right?
Absolutely.
They're buying gas, they're buying cars, they're buying clothes, they're
Absolutely.
buying tires, they're buying oil, they're buying everything.
That's right.
And it's
not lost money.
It's it's not going into crime. It's helping somebody feed their family.
Whereas if you put it into a big cannabis company, I think it's probably lost.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh,
Glenn,
hey, that's good.
CannaMatch.ca. If you're
App will
somewhere,
be up hopefully next week. They got the notice today that it's going to be ready.
Good.
So go ahead.
CannaMatch.ca.
Swipe right or swipe left. Yeah, we did now. Yeah.
if you don't know what that is, that's a way that you can meet other cannabis-related people with the same heart as you, who might know how to hook you up if you're in from out of town, or numerous other very positive things that can happen when you know other people that are.
If you don't want to buy government weed, you can check out some people on CannaMatch.ca, and they probably tell you where to get some.
It could happen.
It could happen
because that's how it works. People tell each other what they like.
We want you to be smoking the good stuff, not the crap.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right,
appreciate it very much.
See you next week.
So yeah, this struggle for access to cannabis for those people that are left out of this was our biggest function. As I said, cannabis has resulted in a number of superheroes. Not people turning into bats, and not because they grow breasts, which I think would be kind of super too, because more breasts the better. But no, because as I mentioned, it results in people being compassionate and wanting to give back to their community. And what happened is that the big fight when we started trying to get legalization, the ones we wanted to protect first were the medical users. They were the ones that were really having the most trouble. They were, everybody was being victimized on the black market, depending on what your source was. I mean, it was just a thing. And people that were sick and suffering and poor had much less ability to get good cannabis in a prohibition world as anybody else. And those were the ones that we wanted to protect first. So that's why we fought hard, and we ended up getting an exemption, a Section 56 exemption for a number of people. We got the courts to agree that it was essential for people, and that people needed access to cannabis. And that emboldened a lot of superheroes to go ahead and open up stores without licenses from the municipalities, and without not permission from any level of government, but in violation of criminal law. But it was so important that people got access, that the sick people got access to cannabis, that's what happened. It happened here in Vancouver with the Compassion Club, and we fought hard to protect the Compassion Club, and they fought hard to continue to be able to help people. And in Victoria, there was Ted Smith and his club, and the Victoria Buyers Club, and the Compassion Club in Victoria with Philippe Lucas. And these original organizations were the benchmark of what we needed to achieve, where people could actually have a storefront to go into. And that resulted in a whole bunch of dispensaries opening up. I opened with David Malmo Levine, the Herb School, right at Main and Hastings here about 17 years ago. That was the second dispensary in Vancouver that didn't use a medical model, but used more of a recreational model, although we always believed that cannabis is medicine no matter how you use it. But we gave access to everybody. We did not require a doctor's signature and a confirmation of diagnosis, and that was the model we used there. But also, after the Compassion Club, Dana Larson started his medicinal cannabis dispensary, and then that model was followed with Karuna and other dispensaries that opened up. And after a while, there was about 180 dispensaries in Vancouver, and there was other dispensaries across Canada and other places, in Toronto, up the coast of British Columbia, and in Saskatchewan. And in Saskatchewan, a dispensary popped up there, run by a fellow named Jerry Martin. And he started giving back to his community by allowing strict medical access to cannabis in lines with the protocols set out here in Vancouver by Riel Kapler and Philippe Lucas that all the dispensaries were using to determine how to accept people as patients and provide them with cannabis. And so he opened up his store, and for about 4 years he provided service to people there. And then Trudeau comes along and says he's going to legalize and promises the medical users that they're going to be okay with legalization. It won't be a problem for them. Of course, he lied through his teeth like he's been doing the whole way with the whole cannabis issue. Although, to be fair, and Freddie Pritchard does deserve credit for having pointed out originally with liberal legalization that it was on their website that they were going to strictly regulate it and try to protect the children. And those are the reasons that they've used to continue prohibition. But in any case, upon legalization, Mr. Martin has sent a letter from Health Canada to stop what he's doing with his dispensary. A ludicrous suggestion, by the way, we've covered it on the show before, that to ask somebody to stop providing medical cannabis who's already been illegal all the time in doing that, to stop helping these patients that he's come to know personally and who are so grateful for the service and would be so devastated without it is the main point, that you couldn't stop. And so he continued on thinking that he was going to be included in legalization, brought into the mainstream and allowed to have his dispensary. But instead they came in, the RCMP came in and they arrested him and they seized his property. And now it's been 4.5 years since that happened. And he has now had 1 day in court to explain himself, and they put in an affidavit and was cross-examined on that, and we're awaiting the results of that coming up in September. But Jerry's been kind enough and brave enough to come on the show almost every week and let us have a glimpse into what's going on with him and what this is like, the journey for justice that we hope he gets one day. And he's here today, and I want to bring him on. Come on in, Jerry. Good to see you, sir.
You too.
Doing all right?
Yeah.
All right.
Day yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't listen. Just gotta listen.
Yeah. It's always something.
Now people start thinking.
Not enough psychedelics.
Yeah.
So I just framed a little bit about your journey and what's been going on. You want to talk just for a little minute about that and how it's going with that and what your expectations are?
You know, the psychedelics?
No, with the Journey for Justice.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dispensary.
Yeah, I don't know. I did ask for my car in my home, in my building back, and that didn't go well. So I guess they still feel they're winning.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I don't know.
So I feel pretty good about it myself. But
Did you expect it back?
I expected at least the car back. They admitted in court that, I paid for it with an SGI claim, so they figured they'd give it back if they know.
Right.
But
Because it obviously wasn't proceeds of your criminal enterprise of providing medicine to people.
Right, yeah, it was done through Cario before. So.
I don't expect anything from them ever. I really don't. I get so many people contacting me, or I read so many accounts of people that are having issues with having their stuff seized, and it just seems to take forever if they get it back at all.
Yeah.
And it's a constant stall game. They don't answer their phones, or
Right.
excuse after
COVID.
excuse. I just think that whole gang.
Everything's even worth anything now. The building's destroyed.
What it's worth to
the
them.
The car may not even start after 5 years.
What it's worth to them, I think, is to hurt you.
Yeah.
That's what I
It's not worth anything.
I think that whole gang of thugs that is in charge of trying to prohibit cannabis from people, they hate us. They've hated that we've made the gains that we had. Yeah, they're trying to take advantage of that and flip it for themselves. But still, I think that to every chance they get, they stick it to us. And I think you're
Well, they
a
don't
shining
admit
example
they're
of that.
wrong, and they will go to any extremes to make sure that they're not wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is.
Well, I mean, you must have been such
I
a
heard
target
I
to
seen
them.
Chris N's post the other day about listening to them in court, figuring out how to keep the money from that guy because they had no evidence.
That's right.
That's
what I mean.
I mean, how crooked is that?
I know. That's what I mean. They're just a gang.
Yeah.
And
They just come up with a new law.
If the
and
Hells
new
Angels,
rules.
decided to rob you and then turned
I
out...
would rather them rob me and get on with my day.
Unless they had robbed the wrong guy, they'd probably not give you your money back if there was any reason at all for them to take it.
But
In this case,
they're going to let you go on and live your life.
even the Hells
These
Angels,
guys.
if the Hells Angels get the wrong guy,
Yeah.
they're going to go give the guy his fucking money back, basically. They're going to say sorry. They're going to make it right.
Yeah.
I know that group. They got ethics. They got more flipping ethics than the police do.
Yeah.
Police don't have any ethics at all because they hate the people that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
They hate us all.
Competition.
I've said it a number of times. And hate is a buzzword these days. But I'll tell you, they hate us.
Oh, yeah, they do.
hate
They're
us.
violent. They're bred to be violent.
They are.
And non-empathetic, and they don't really care two shits about what the story is.
They think all the way
They're
along
just
the line.
enforcing
Whenever
the
they
law.
have any way to deal with any of us, they do their best to hurt us.
Yeah.
All the way through the system.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
They want to
The
make
cops
it
will
as
think,
difficult as possible on you.
the cops will think, well, the guy's probably going to get off in court, so I'm going to really, hurt him now, sort of thing. And they do that.
Yeah.
But, then that might be okay, but it really still isn't. But it might be
that's
okay.
a tactic of theirs.
If it's a violent guy, if it's some guy that's really been, doing terrible things, maybe it's okay for the cops to give him a hard time on the way to court where he might get a good lawyer and get off. I don't know. But for weed people, come on, really for nobody. I mean, we have lots of things where we try as a civil society to not have our cops do that, innocent until proven guilty. is supposed to be a thing. But I worked for insurance companies for a long time, repairing stuff, and so you go to a lot of break-ins and things. Several occasions where cops had told the homeowner, who almost caught the guy or whatever, like, hey, if you actually do get a hold of him, make sure he falls down the stairs before we get here, because we can't do much to him. They have that kind of an attitude. And they might not be able to do much to him because,
well, you got to be careful. In Canada, you go to jail if you kill somebody in your own
if you kill him. You got to be, just
well, you start something, it's going, right?
I know. It was terrible advice. It was absolutely terrible advice. What it was an indication of their attitude about it. And I experienced it too. When they put me in handcuffs, except for the one time, those cops in Edmonton, when they arrested me there, they were so gentle with me. They treated me really good there. I appreciate that a whole bunch. But all the other times I've been arrested for weed, that's the only thing I've been arrested for.
I've had them come right through the window swap.
They put those handcuffs on so bloody tight. They destroy your shit. They are not nice at all.
Oh, we had zip tie dragged right outside all along, all of us.
The way they attacked me on Cannabis Day in 2015, all these things, I've had a lot of personal experience with what their attitude is towards us. And now to see what they've done with legalization, we consulted with them. I'm not sure they really came to us for the most part, although Mark and Jody got to consult with them, and they did ask some other people to give evidence about things. I think Dana did as well. Yeah. But everything we told them about what legalization should look like, they did the opposite. So it's almost like they consulted with us to find out exactly how they could hurt us the most, and then that's what they've done. So in case for you people not in Canada, or even you people in Canada that don't know, we're not happy with legalization. And if it was real legalization, you wouldn't have still been going to court. No. They would have given you your stuff back long time ago.
No, it's just on the island, and so many of the old dispensaries, the legal ones, are legal dispensaries now. It's so whacked. From province to province, so I'm happy for them.
I am too.
But it just shows you the difference from province to province, how different it is.
The hypocrisy, the double standard that is being applied here is just insane all across the board. There's this huge double standard. And I guess because there's still this huge dichotomy. Whereas on the one hand, they're trying to behave as if cannabis kills, causes violence, is addictive, impedes brain function, causes cancer, makes people lazy, stupid, has sexual dysfunction, low sperm, turns people into bats, and grows breasts. They're trying to maintain kind of all of that stuff, because without that stuff, how do you possibly justify using the criminal law to try to keep people from having or growing or selling a plant? But using the criminal law for somebody who's selling some other willing buyer a plant is just absurd.
It is.
So without having some of that still going on, they can't really do that. So they still have a lot of that going on, although now they just say more about it. It harms the developing brain, and all of these things are still there. These things were told over and over and over and over again. My grandparents believed it, my parents believed it. It still permeates through our society. The stigmatization of cannabis users is very apparent by those.
That's because they use the same speech in the school still as they did in the 70s. The exact same one.
And the doctors are still saying the same things, And the restrictions, it must be dangerous with all these restrictions. People used to think cannabis must be dangerous because it's illegal.
Yeah. You can only get 30 grams of it.
Yeah.
You go to a liquor store and buy cases and cases and cases, no limit.
And maybe tobacco is even a better example, because that stuff really only kills people. At least alcohol can be used properly, and people have fun with it, and certainly a free adult should have access to alcohol. Who says you're going to use it improperly? But commercial tobacco, very little saving grace on that. If they really wanted to save people from a bad affliction, that commercial tobacco shit kills a lot of people. Number one reason for hospitalizations in Canada is caused by tobacco smoking. The government doesn't spend a lot of time prohibiting the access to cigarettes.
I wish they would. It'd be easier to quit.
Yeah. They're available in every gas station across Canada. Why wouldn't cannabis now be available? You put cannabis right beside tobacco as a choice, and which one's going to hurt people? Well, oh my God, people are going to choose the cannabis most of the time for sure, but they don't allow it to be there. They don't even allow for cannabis to be there as an option here on the downtown east side when people are dropping like flies through a poisoned street drug supply, and we just want to give them some cannabis to help them not be addicted to opioids and die, and we can't get permission to do even that. let alone a gas station, get permission to put some pre-rolled joints beside the
Well,
tobacco.
they will. They'll probably get that before you get what you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, it's a tax revenue.
Once they figure out the money side of it.
Once they've got it monopolized and controlled, and it'll explode.
But then you'll be like, but hey, maybe I can't grow the commercial tobacco I like, because it doesn't have all those addictive additives that I really crave all the time. So when I'm trying to roll up and smoke the tobacco I'm growing in my own backyard, it doesn't really do it for me. So really I need to have that commercial tobacco stuff over there. But with weed, everybody knows that, it doesn't take too much to either grow weed or find a friend who could grow weed. So that's why it's so hard to manipulate and monopolize the market for them.
Yeah.
Is because they're trying to maintain.
All the growers now and taking all their shit. Well, some of them are abusing. I guess you see now.
They're trying to maintain that underlying current of this evil, horrible, dangerous plant, while at the same time capitalizing on all of the people that really want that plant so much that they're willing to even break laws to get it, to spend $10 a gram to get it, and more than that they're finding out.
Yeah, if it was it's worth what it's going for.
Yeah,
so, a percentage, and you wouldn't have that.
Yeah. I talked about it a little bit on previous shows that if they just got out of the way, this is all about government interference. That's the only reason it was on the black market. That's the only reason it's now being overregulated. If the government just got out of the way and left it to be a plant that you could grow like any other plant, at this moment in time, every single farmer in Canada, everybody with a greenhouse, would be converting over to cannabis immediately, because instead of getting a penny for a pound, you can get $1 for a gram.
Right.
100 times more value. Who wouldn't do that? Every single person that knows how to grow, that's what they'd be growing.
There's a lot of opium out there in Syria.
Is there?
Yeah.
And then nobody would be able to get strawberries or blueberries or cherries or anything.
Yeah.
All usable land would be greenhouses for weed, and weed would be everywhere, and there'd be a huge glut. And then over the course of time, farmers would continue to undercut each other and undercut each other and undercut each other, because you don't need $1 a gram, $400 for a pound when you used to get a penny for a pound. And so the price comes down. And eventually, somebody out there is willing to pay $200 for some strawberries.
Yeah.
And a pound of strawberries. So now we got a couple farmers converting over to strawberries.
Have you been to Vienna?
No.
Oh, there you could probably pay $200.
For a pound of strawberries?
It cost me like over €200 to go from the airport to the hotel. I literally got mad at them. I was like, "You're robbing me, man!
Yeah.
Like, this can't be right."
And why is it right? Why is it
Everything
right?
is expensive. Like coffee's €10. It's crazy. It's the banking city.
I see. So it's a city for rich
The
people.
Rothschilds and
Rich people and people that serve rich people.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's what that is. Because there's a lot of other places you can go where it's really cheap to live.
Right, Philippines or Thailand
Lots of places. So yeah, and then other farmers would start growing other things, and eventually the prices of everything would balance back out again. And cannabis, probably one of the cheaper things in the marketplace, although still connoisseur cannabis, and still people that want to pay high money for cannabis and get cannabis grown by the very best connoisseurs and the very best equipment and everything, that's still available, and that's fine. They get a store, and people will go there and buy that stuff. Gucci's got a store that poor people never go into. That's all good. That's all fine. But you'd be able, if that scenario happened, you'd be able to get cannabis at the grocery store, fresh, raw cannabis that you might dry yourself even. It probably comes to market already dried and cured, but you have to trim it yourself and put the buds in a jar or something. And and it might not be that real crystally, fantastic stuff that the connoisseur places have, but it's really, really good cannabis, and it's plenty good for anybody that wants to get high or solve their medical issues. And it's like the same price per pound as heirloom tomatoes and those other types of things. So that's what could happen if the government ever decided to step out of the way with this plant that just produces probably more biomass than most other things you could grow, and probably is more beneficial to people than anything else they would ever buy. But the price should be more involved about what it costs to get to market for the poor people. That's what a government should do.
Yeah.
That's what a government should do. They should make sure
it's fair market.
that it's a fair marketplace and that the poor people have access to, that there's not gouging going on. Farmers deserve to make money, 100%. But they make a good dollar, and people still buy cannabis for the same price as a bag of cherries or strawberries or other plants that are kind of expensive, but still, And that's, the government shouldn't be taxing weed when weed helps, right? The government should be taxing things that hurt. So if there's behaviors that are going on that cost society,
Right.
then the people involved in those behaviors, or maybe everybody, if people have to be involved in, and some people have, then everybody pays a little bit, and we all bail each other. That's what they should do. They should be supplementing cannabis. They should make sure. They should maybe cut whatever the price of the cannabis limits the price of strawberries in
They
half.
should actually rehabilitate people while they're in prison and educate them and give them tools for when they get out. Let them sit in a box and becoming even worse.
Prison is a whole other topic of how, what are we doing putting people in cages?
Yeah.
Is that getting us value?
And if you are going to put them in a cage, then maybe you should educate them instead of treating them worse and demeaning.
I read this great thing that was written by Spinoza. He was a 17th century Dutch philosopher. And it was Einstein's response to Do you believe in God? When he was asked, do you believe in God? He'd say, no, I'm an agnostic, but I believe in Spinoza's God. And Spinoza's God, in fact, I think I'm going to read, I don't usually read stuff off my phone, but I thought this was really profound. That, what do we think of God? And, and what we expect from him and what we think of him and all of that. And Spinoza said, God would have said, stop praying and punching yourself in the chest. What I want you to do is go out into the world and enjoy your life. I want you to enjoy, sing, have fun, and enjoy everything I've made for you. Stop going to those dark, cold temples that you built yourself and say they are my house. My house is in the mountains. It's in the woods, in the rivers, in the lakes, in the beaches. That's where I live. That's where I express my love for you. Stop blaming me for your miserable life. I never told you there was anything wrong with you, or that you were a sinner, or that your sexuality was a bad thing. Sex is a gift I've given you, and with which you can express your love, your ecstasy, your joy. So don't blame me for everything they made you believe. Stop reading. I do too. Stop reading alleged sacred scriptures that have nothing to do with me. If you can't read me in a sunrise, in a landscape, in the look of your friends, in your son's eyes, then you will not find me in a book. Trust me. Stop asking me. Why would you tell me how to do my job? Stop being so scared of me. I do not judge you or criticize you, nor get angry or seek to punish you. I am pure love. Stop asking for forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. And that's what reminded me of this, is what we were talking about there. If I made you, I filled you with passions, limitations, pleasures, feelings, needs, inconsistencies, free will. How can I blame you if you respond to something that I put in you? How can I punish you for being the way you are if I'm the one who made you? Do you think I could create a place to burn all my children who behave badly for the rest of eternity? What kind of God do you think I am?
Residential school.
Yeah. Forget any kind of commandments or any kind of laws. Those are wiles to manipulate you, to control you, that only create guilt in you. Respect your peers and don't do what you don't want done for yourself. All I ask is that you pay attention in your life, that your consciousness is your guide. My beloved, this life is not a test, it's not a step, it's not a rehearsal, it's not a prelude to paradise. This life is the only thing that exists here and now, and it is all you need. I have set you absolutely free. No prizes or punishments, no sins, no virtues. No one carries a marker, no one is keeping record. You are absolutely free to create in your life heaven or hell. I could tell you if there's anything after this life, but I won't. But I can give you a tip. Live as if there is nothing at all. As if this is your only chance to enjoy it, to love, and to exist. Live for right now. Don't worry about that's me. So if there's nothing, then you will have enjoyed the opportunity I gave you. And if there's something, rest assured that I won't ask if you behaved right or wrong. I'll ask, did you like it? Did you have fun? What did you enjoy the most? What did you learn? Stop believing in me. Believing is assuming, guessing, imagining. I don't want you to believe in me. I want you to feel me in you when you kiss your beloved, when you tuck in your little girl, when you caress your dog, when you bathe in the sea. Stop praising me. What kind of an egomaniac God do you think I am? I'm bored with being praised. I'm tired of being praised and thanked for feeling grateful. Prove it to me by taking care of yourself, your health, your relationships, the world. Express your joy. That's the way to praise me. Stop complicating things and repeating as a parakeet what you've been taught about me. The only thing for sure is that you are here, that you are alive, and that this world is full of wonders. What do you need more miracles for? Why so many explanations? Look for me outside. You won't find me. Find me inside. There I am, beating right beside your heart. Spinoza.
Pretty good. I like
Fuck yeah. That's my religion too. I don't know about nothing, except it feels like I'm here right now with you talking about shit. And I just want to have as much fun as I can, because who knows if there's anything else, right? So yeah. Okay, so your court case is coming up next September, which isn't all that far away now.
Yeah,
it goes pretty fast. That's
July.
That's part 2. Part 1 was
3
affidavits
months.
submitted and cross-examination. Part 2 is going to be final arguments, and then sometime after that a decision. And we'll have to wait for all of that stuff. In the meantime, you've been doing lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And still, once again, pursuing your passion, which is helping people with freedom and with access to things that they're not free about. And freedom of thought is your new journey.
Yeah.
The access to psychedelics is part of freedom of thought. If you think about it, denying access to substances which could cause thoughts is the opposite of freedom of thought. If you decide you want to ingest something because you think it might alter your thoughts, that's your right as a human being, and nobody else's right to not let you do that. And that's what the whole psychedelic thing is all about, the pursuit for freedom with psychedelics. So what are you doing with that? How are you orchestrating this?
It's going
campaign?
good. Yeah, generally they're trying to suppress your thoughts with pharmaceuticals.
Right, eh?
They're trying to suppress your.
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
I'd always felt like it was in a
So you just
blur.
want to think a different way instead of the same old way.
Right.
And give you the opportunity to do that. So, it's still, it's a learning curve. I still, of course,
And it's an individual curve, eh?
Yeah, everybody's
So
different.
much.
I think it matters on the amount of damage that's been done, maybe,
For
too.
sure.
It takes a little longer, a little more.
It would be similar to how much you might need to supplement your endocannabinoid system.
Right.
It depends on what your endocannabinoid system is dealing with. If you're quite healthy, then you might be getting all the essential fatty acids and nutrients that you need in your diet, where your endocannabinoid system is able to create those cannabinoids, if you will, interior exogenous cannabinoids, endogenous cannabinoids, that you don't need to supplement too much. But some people have serious issues going on, and they are eating thousands and thousands of milligrams of cannabis in the form of edibles to try to supplement their endocannabinoid system. And what you're saying is perhaps on more of a psychological level, that there's damage that the psychedelics can help with, and how much help you get and the way that comes to you is a very individual thing, probably based a lot on what's going on.
You need to retrain your mind, right? And it gives
It's a
you
difficult thing to do.
It is a difficult thing to do, very difficult. But it certainly helps with psychedelics, I find. It's
We were talking about it earlier today about certain people have things that they believe in or behaviors that they're entrenched with, and it's really, really difficult to talk them out of it. Or they go to therapy lots of times, and a lot of times that makes it worse as they're brought back into situations where they were traumatized. Almost all these things come out of trauma. The majority of it.
That's the beautiful thing about psychedelics is you get to deal with it all in that space, all at the same time. You don't have to go about 20 years. You can go for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It is really been shown in many cases. There's lots of anecdotal reports for sure of how many people have had breakthroughs because of psychedelics.
Yeah, it certainly woke me up for sure. Like I've done psychedelics before, but after the 5 mg THC, it's nothing like that.
Yeah, and you feel clear-headed and clearer-headed because of it, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Well, even just the opportunity, knowing that there's a different way and a different, path out there, even that in itself, whether or not you can do it right away, is a game changer. It gives you hope.
So I've now tried the White Wizards.
Oh, yeah.
Twice, mushrooms. When when having a headache coming on, instead of taking the pharmaceutical pills that seem to help, and I'll tell you, migraines are no fun at all, and if I can stop it, I'm going to stop it. But this time, twice in a row now, I've taken the White Wizards, and both times no headache continued, but the first time, I didn't feel much. It was only 0.45 of a gram, so almost a half a gram. When I do like the penis envies, boy, with that much, it's only half a gram, but boy, I notice it within 20 minutes. Things are starting to move around me, and, I'm like, whoa, Although I was told today that the penis envies are one of the more potent.
Yeah, they are generally known as one of the potent, but there's different strains of penis envies out there too.
That's true as well. So the White Wizards.
But soon, you'll be able to know.
Maybe,
well, you will, for sure. That's one of the things that we're going to the island for, is so that we'll be able to test, psilocybin content and strength.
Nice.
Yeah, so...
it must be similar to testing cannabinoids, right?
Last time I was here, but we can't get the standards until August to test against.
Is it easier to have standardization with mushrooms than it is with cannabis, do you think?
I don't think it really makes any probably difference. You're making an extract out of it generally too. And you use the extract that you got to know what strength of and make your products from that.
And
it's a different process though.
Likely similar to cannabis, a mushroom would have varying contents of the active ingredients within
throughout the individual mushroom. So that's why it's best to make concentrate, and if you can test that concentrate.
Right.
Generally, people will be able to send in their dried mushrooms, and we'll grind it and put it in the self-smusher and all the things you need to do to be able to test it.
So with the White Wizards, the first time with the headache, didn't feel much, although I knew half an hour in that there was a little bit of influence going on. And then about an hour after I took them, all of a sudden, it was like a snap. It really felt like a snap, and my headache was gone. Like from one moment, I'm going, oh, this thing is still bothering me. I don't think very much when the headache's happening. I just think about and I went from to what just happened.
That's like I love that.
And I started thinking, I didn't feel a thing, and I woke up clear-headed. I woke up kind of energetic, and that's not normal when I've had that type of a night. So this last night, I did the same thing. I didn't have the snap. The headache did stop. I was a little more tired this morning than the last time, but there's a real clarity that I can really notice compared to when I take those pharmaceuticals, and there's a lack of clarity. So there's natural ways to deal with these things, and I don't like trusting pharmaceuticals ever. But like I say with migraines, when you find something that works, you gotta.
I trust a lot of pharmaceuticals. I mean, there's some that work great. I gotta take an aspirin every day.
I hear aspirin is good.
Yeah, so
I don't.
Good ones.
I'm not totally anti-pharmaceutical at all.
It's generally not the drug that's the problem. It's the people trying to make money off the drug. They get greedy and they cheat and they lie and they don't do the proper testing or waiting period.
And they campaign against the other alternatives.
And they've got so much money that they can lobby and these sort of things. They need to change.
They finance a whole department on trying to keep other options out of the market.
Corporations should not be allowed to influence laws, and that would be a simple way to fix things.
Government's role should be to regulate corporations. That's what their role should be. It should be recognized that we as people are prey to people with lots of money and leverage and a lack of ethics. And it's always been that way. That there's people that are well leveraged with low ethics that are willing to exploit. And that's our enemy as human beings, is those people that would take advantage of us and exploit us, would wipe out any competition to what they got going on, gouge us with prices that are way beyond what it takes to bring to market, use those funds to purposely go after anybody else that might compete with them. All these things, that's our enemy. What we need is a free marketplace and people able to compete with each other and people able to bring to market things at reasonable prices when someone else has unreasonable prices and put them out of business that way. And what we've got is a government that, in this case, on the cannabis file, is artificially maintaining through strict regulations and a government-funded or taxpayer-funded protection racket this whole access to cannabis. And
there's simpler ways to do it. I mean, testing facilities and just
easy.
Your product.
As a dispensary owner, I mean, you know that somebody brings you in a bag with some cannabis. It's not that hard to get it tested.
No,
and
not now.
Not now. back in the day maybe. But back in the day, you would do in-house testing.
Yeah.
You know, you'd gather your staff, you know, smoke a few, see how you feel, see how it tastes, see how it burns. I mean, experts can tell by the way a joint burns whether or not it's got fertilizers in it. You can tell if there's fertilizers in the weed. It sparks, for one thing.
Yeah. Well, it goes black, but now the organic live soil makes it go black too, so it's...
yeah, not a 100% indicator, but at the same time, you know pretty much whether what you're ingesting. And with smoking too, you get to know right away. You feel it right away. If there's something not right in there, you taste it on the way down, you feel it. Absolutely. My son was telling me that for survival out in the wilderness, there's a process for testing things that you think might be edible, and you know, it's a very, I don't know all the steps in it, but they were very, very gradual steps before you actually touch your tongue to it, you know, and that will tell you about, you know, you rub a little bit on, does it burn, you know, and things like that. But it's quite a series of things to go through. But your body can tell real quick through a number of different ways whether or not something. And with cannabis, we've learned that. And I don't know. I'd love to try to do the math on it, but I'm sure it's impossible to do because people weren't honest for decades about who was using cannabis. I found that out on the Freedom Tour that people you would never suspect were using cannabis were using cannabis.
See, people use psychedelics, man. Like,
maybe that too.
Yeah.
In fact, there's now. It's only a rumor. I haven't checked it out and verified it, but I heard that somebody reported in London, Ontario, that this person that drove down that family was on mushrooms at the time.
Oh, well,
and their take is just another example of how disgusting drug use is.
They're pushing it already, eh?
Yeah. So shouldn't drive on any impairing thing. And if you've got violent things going on in your life, then you know that's what's wrong.
Sometimes you can escalate it for sure. Yeah. Well, that's where education warnings come from.
That's a terrible thing that happened there. A terrible thing that's going on right now with these residential schools. My heart goes out to all the families and everyone and all of us. This is all of our burden and all of us to mourn what was allowed to happen and what has happened. And I'm sure the whole story is far from being told.
Far. Yeah, there's a lot more going on.
And then they're cancelling Canada Day in some places, and there's a lot of talk about that. Glenn Wells, who was here earlier, had a really good idea, I think, of combining the two. Because we just had Indigenous Day yesterday here. And I think that we should celebrate the Indigenous of this country as long as those came along afterwards. If there needs to be some celebration or get together or recognition, I think we should put these days together.
Peaceful bringing together from the...
from
the past.
We've been using July 1st in the cannabis community for a long time to do Cannabis Day. We were doing Cannabis Day before there was a Canada Day. It was Dominion Day back when Cannabis Day was started. There was almost nothing to market. There was fireworks in the day there. Oops, there I go again. We're connected, Neil. Take a moment to say thanks to Neil for producing the show. I don't do that every week, and I really mean to do that. He's such a fantastic guy, and I'm really scared I'm going to lose him as a producer because now he's sort of partially taking over Jeremiah's spot on the Friday CCN, and I think that was done on purpose, and did a fabulous job just this last Friday. In an interview about terrible goings on in Arkansas with the drug trade and a bunch of corruption and a whole bunch of lies being told, and a really, really interesting story about double standards in drug dealing. And you can look that up on the Cannabis Culture website as well. But, yeah. So, the pursuit for the freedom of thought with respect to psychedelics. All psychedelics are not illegal at this point. Some psychedelics are illegal. Is there a history behind how that happened, do you know?
Yeah, I think like peyote was left out for Indigenous people.
Mm-hmm. Is that because of protesting?
Religious history is part of their culture.
So they would have protested and lobbied to have that be the case. There was court cases around that, wasn't there?
I'm sure there was.
Yes,
yeah. And then there's research chemicals which have been tweaked, but generally not for human consumption, or can't be sold for human consumption. That's why I have warnings on all mine to comply with the law.
Right. So analgesics like opium and coca here in Canada, they were prohibited way back in the day.
71, I think, or was it 70, or was it 86 or something, or 80, I think maybe in the 80s they brought in the psychedelics.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because that happened way back at the turn of the 19th century. Psychedelics were quite a bit later than that.
Yeah.
Was there a history of what they said about that? Was there justifications that they used? Or was it pretty slam dunk at this point? We can prohibit whatever we want. These young people are using this substance now, we'll prohibit that.
Well, it was the war going on, and then you had LSD culture and the hippie culture saying no war, and that was really interfering with that. And LSD was a drug of choice, so LSD's got unfortunately wrapped up with that.
So it was
it got a bad rap, and all the pharmacies took all the drugs off the shelf.
So you think that the prohibition of the psychedelics was a response or an attack on the anti-war factions?
Peace and freedom, for sure it was. Yeah, they did not want them getting people. They didn't people to go to war. They did not want their heads filled with love and peace.
Yeah.
They needed them to go watch some people.
Tune in and check out.
And then go kill your fellow man.
That's right.
I mean, you really got to be brainwashed for that.
We talked earlier about cigarettes being sold in gas stations and how realistically you would think cannabis should be there as an option right side by side. But also with alcohol. I mean, wow. The issues with alcohol over the years, the problems that we have, there's bars are reopening now. Yeah. And there's fights.
Yeah, problems
every night. There's problems every night.
Well, that's great with the psychedelics. It's going to help them think a little different ways, and they may not like drinking so much anymore after.
To have alcohol so readily available, it's so glorified. The advertising around it, it's part of every party. In the legislature, in the parliament, on parliament. Now, maybe with COVID, they've stopped having so many, if any, functions, probably, I guess, in parliament. Boy, what are they doing? They're all drinking at home. Yeah. Those MPs are all drinking at home. Yeah. Because what they used to do was go to Parliament Hill. It's part of the culture. They have events that start, 10, 11 in the morning, and alcohol starts to flow immediately.
Well, they get driven around.
Oh, exactly.
They can drive. They can't drive.
That's right. Yeah. Their offices all have huge liquor cabinets in them, and then there's spare liquor cabinets in other offices just in case. Yeah. It's crazy, the amount of alcohol.
Rockford. That's that guy.
Yeah, he was a character and a half. Eh?
Yeah.
Talk about double standards.
Oh, yeah.
Just
the other Ford brother, he should be in the drug business because they did it all their lives. So that's what he said. He sold hash all their lives. So.
I know.
They should be allowed to run.
They should be government.
Yeah.
They should be in charge.
Yeah.
What a crazy mixed
up.
You
guys go to jail.
This is. It's insanity, and I don't like insanity. I'm just trying to be sane in an insane world.
I like that he's honest about it. It's just make it fair.
Well, some of it's funny as hell. I like humor.
Make it fair for everybody, man. If you're getting the same way,
it's all funny until somebody loses an eye, right?
His brother gets off because they had resources. So why aren't those available to all Canadians?
Exactly. It's just the hypocrisy of it all. It's just so insane hypocrisy. I mean, it's funny till people get hurt, and lots of people are getting hurt, and that's when it stops kind of being funny. But boy, I'll tell you, for anybody that was just a reasonable life form with a proper set of logic and ethics to assess the nature of our society here and what we're doing with putting people in cages, for all sorts of different things. You shouldn't put a person in a cage, for fuck's sakes. That's so barbaric. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's better than cutting their heads off in front of their families, and that's what they did for a long time before. So I guess this is civilized.
You're in a cage, man? I've been in a lot of cages, man.
This is civilized compared to that, I guess, yeah.
Depends what cage you're in, man.
But realistically, I mean, if alien life forms are going to come here and they've gotten past all of these ethical dilemmas, about the rich exploiting the poor and the strong just stealing from the weak all the time, what are they going to think of what's going on here with these stupid rules and laws and government and the way things are done and the wars that we've been waging for all this time and continue to have armies and bombers and spend money on people. There's people right now building bombs, Yeah. We've got enough bombs.
Yeah,
You know,
Stop
and
the
there's people being,
fear-based
I want to finish that one thought. We got people building bombs. We got too many bombs. We got people being arrested for growing weed. We don't have enough weed.
How much better do bombs need to be?
And how good must they be by now?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're not just gunpowder in a shell.
It's pretty damn good.
Oh man, yeah, no, they are not just gunpowder in a shell.
Fucking Hiroshimas and shit.
Well, do we need bombs at all? We have drones now. Drones can kill anybody you don't like.
I just ordered one.
Did you? They're flying in races now. We got great big drones that people are racing in. They're going really fucking fast. And sorry, Annie Barbie, that one probably didn't deserve to be there. I love you, by the way, and I miss you, and you should call me. Yeah, I mean, what a weird world. The drones will do all of it for us now.
Insane,
yeah, these flying little robots.
That's way scarier.
Oh, way scarier.
Yeah.
Way scarier.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about scary shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a show about the future and about how AI is going to eventually enslave us if it doesn't just destroy us and all the rest of that, which is inevitable by the looks of it. I'm not sure.
Terminator's coming.
When aliens come here, it's probably AI. It's probably not any life form that
that's where we get all our AI from.
Yeah,
they
that
just
could be
release
true, right?
a little bit at a time.
Because you couldn't send out bodies of life forms that had evolved over billions of years to be matches to the environments that they on the planets that they were on. I mean, there's no way you could ever step foot and breathe any other planet anywhere ever. That's not true because the microbes, the bugs, the bacteria, the viruses, that whatever's in that ecosystem of air that you're breathing that has spawned a whole bunch of other life forms, and this is the planet that you're visiting, like they did in Star Trek so many times. They beam down there, they'd meet these other life forms. There'd be all these weird plants that might spray you.
I think they've done the beaming thing.
Well, the beaming thing might happen eventually.
Yeah.
But the thought that you could actually go and breathe the air of another planet, you'd have to absolutely have some sort of, bring your own air source or something. But anyway, that's all just crazy. It would be AI that we would send out on these multi-decade missions near the speed of light that investigate for us, I'm sure, and send it all back. Who knows? There doesn't seem to be any of that. Unless, I don't know, now the U.S. government says that there were a whole bunch of UFOs that they can't explain.
Well, no, the UK released all their UFO stuff.
The UK? I thought it was the U.S.
No, the UK, yeah. No, I think the U.S. may have released some, but UK is released.
Maybe the U.S. commented on it.
Maybe.
If they commented that yes, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can't explain, but no, we don't think it's aliens. That's what they said.
No, they released a lot.
Yeah, and there was a lot in there that they can't explain.
Yeah.
Who knows? There's a lot of this universe is crazy, man. I don't know what the fuck is.
Yeah.
On a roll now. We talk everything on this show. So, are you going to win? I guess is the next question. You want to bring him on the show?
Yeah. My little brother's
bring him on the show.
Like everywhere.
Benito, you thought Cato was a star? Come and meet Benito. Oh, where did he go? Oh, Benito.
What's that guy grabbing me for?
Benito is a friend of ours that visits quite regularly. He gets to run around here and we feed him. You're okay. Have you ever been on TV?
All right, time's up.
Aren't these things great? Do you want it?
Yeah.
I hear you. Animals are fantastic companions for people, I'll tell you. They do so much good. They eat us too once in a while, and deers are responsible for more deaths on the highway than just about anything else, and they may be doing that on purpose as a revenge move against hunters on behalf of birds and themselves. I don't know, it's possible, who knows. But, for the most part, if you treat them right, just like anything, it's dose-related and it's how you treat it. If you use them properly, the companions on this planet are fantastic.
The bird comes sees me every day.
Yeah,
comes for lunch, comes for supper.
There's something so special about that, eh? I've had similar things with life forms that, would come and greet me. And, even when a fly lands on my hand and I sit there and talk to him for a minute, it's funny as hell, but I'm like, hey, how you doing? And then they'll sit there on my hand and we'll talk. And I don't try to scare it, although, just my very being scares them all.
Dalai Lama said, kill the fly. Society, people want opportunity. listen.
Like everything
Doesn't
else.
listen.
like everybody else. You get an opportunity with me. I give everybody a fair opportunity. But that's it. That's a wonderful way to look at that, too. That's great. So, that's what's going on. I asked you, do you think you're going to win? Are we going to win? Are we going to have...
So, I think I have more leaning on the more of the yes side, the no side. I think they'll probably come up some way for them to win, too. And we'll win on maybe certain parts, maybe other parts.
It's so hard.
As long as we change some of it.
It's been the dilemma since the beginning for these people. Is if they can't monetize it and capitalize it, and in some cases weaponize it, they don't want it to be available. And that's always been part of how business ethics operates, is to try to keep out any competition or anything that's going to interfere. And so, yeah, you're right. Because they've somehow managed to hoodwink us into us allowing our captors. I mean, what am I talking about? We've been kidnapped here. These people own our asses. But, we have allowed for them to make it a criminal offense and illegal to be trading in these things and getting access to these things. It's not right. And I believe that right eventually wins out, and that's kind of what we're witnessing here. But it's quite a struggle.
Yeah, so hopefully the freedom of thought case will open up a whole lot of things for a whole lot of it.
And is there a timeline on that?
Well, I'm waiting on a reply from one of the financiers in the next couple of days. I had a meeting with Dr. Knowles out of Silicon Valley and Dr. Sanjeev Goel out of Toronto, which is PQman. So really, I think we're going to strike a deal with him.
Is Jack Lloyd involved?
Yeah, Jack will be
Because
involved.
Jack's a real expert on these things.
Yeah, Jack's our psychedelics law expert.
So how does Jack feel? Is he optimistic about the chances?
You know what? Jack's really at any means. We haven't got the Jack stage yet.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be interested to know what his thoughts are.
Yeah.
Because he's got that inside view of the legal side of what
Yeah,
may
well,
or may not be
Paul
allowed.
pretty much knows. He works for Paul.
Right?
So,
And Paul's optimistic?
Oh, yeah. No, we're pretty optimistic. There's never been a freedom of thought case. Like, there's been a couple that have ended up freedom of expression case, but nobody's ever done a freedom of thought case.
I mean, freedom of expression.
Freedom of world, even.
You can see that there's ways that people could express themselves that might be problematic, right? So maybe there should be some guidelines on expression, maybe guidelines.
Well, we're hoping it's going to help those people go the other way and have with the proper dosage and information. But guided sessions.
But thoughts.
Yeah. Well, it's just like alcohol. I mean, some of those people shouldn't be allowed to have alcohol, but they can.
Here's the thing. I mean, if you're going to talk about freedom of expression, what it is that you're expressing are your thoughts.
Right.
Without the thoughts, there's no expression.
But a lot of people don't express their thoughts.
No, of course. But I'm saying that those people that do,
it's able to be able to choose a different way to think about it. People are stuck in one-way paths of thinking about things or reacting to things. So this gives them several different choices to look at down the road. They can think a different way. Yeah. Well, maybe I could do it this way instead of that way.
That's right. I mean, most people don't do a lot of what they think about. You think about, your instant knee-jerk reaction is I should do this, and then you decide not to do that. So you don't express a lot of what you think and think you maybe.
And if you can afford it, you can go to those.
This whole thing. This is my point. Is that none of that expression comes without the initial thought in the first place.
Right.
The freedom to be able to think is not something that affects other people unless you express what you're thinking. The freedom to think, that's just within your head. Yeah. How can you not have the freedom to, chew on a leaf and go on a trip and have a dream?
It's like Minority Report. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Stop them crimes before they happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's lots of other with what Elon Musk is doing and other things about thought manipulation and thought reading. Wow, I mean, this is the threshold of where we are. The doors are now opening. That it's becoming very, very, very important, crucially important, that we get a handle on the powers of these public servants. And for those of you in countries where maybe you don't have servants that you're paying to be, doing what you should have done for yourself, maybe you have kings and queens and a big police force ordering you around. I don't know. But nothing is right about any of that. And especially if you have public servants you need to be able to have the freedom to think for yourself, dream whatever dream you want to dream, compare whatever you want to compare to. Whether or not you express that and how you express that does come into the realm of the rest of us, because you can express things in ways that are harmful to other people, and that needs to be talked about. But when you're just thinking, you get to think. And the thought, the idea that these powers that be, which are really supposed to be servants of ours, have had the audacity to decide that human beings shouldn't be thinking about not going to war. And because of that, we're going to put a law in place to make it so they can't have access to these natural compounds that people use that make them question whether or not they should go to war. And we're going to encourage them to drink alcohol, which will probably give some people some violent thoughts, but not only that, allow us to infect their minds and get them to do things they might not otherwise do because they're too drunk to think about what's right and wrong. This is all just like the craziest of stories, this idea of humans. If there's another planet of aliens out there and they come across this, they're going to want to make a movie about life on planet Earth. And it would be this scary science fiction movie to all the people on their planet about these weird creatures that have allowed the manipulation of their ethics by governments and businesses to the point where we're slaves to these people and being manipulated to the point where they're even willing to kill us and let us die and not help us to further their own financial and control interests. This is a crazy story of millions of people globally who have been kidnapped by the financial elite of this planet, and we don't even know it. And they don't even figure it out. They don't get it. They think that because the government says you can't do a pill, or pardon me, or whatever you want to do, that it's okay. And it's never okay. And if they say you can't do it, there better be a damn good reason for it. It better be because other people are going to be hurt. And that's the only reason for it. But we've lost sight of that a long time ago. We think authorities are authorities and police get to do all this stuff. And you and I and many others know that it's wrong and know that the police are corrupt. But, Cato. I'm going to leave that one alone. I want to go out to the RV and see the people there and get the other part of this show done. And Jerry, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us and giving us your insights in things. It's been quite a journey for you. It's not over yet. And we'll see where it all ends up. I wish you all the best, as always, you and all your friends that are working on the Free Thought Project. It's for all of us. And the thought that we're not free is a thought that they would probably make illegal if they could.
Well, people
They knew I was thinking about
donate eventually here. We'll put something up where they can help. Maybe even be part of the case as a plaintiff. So.
Right, that would be very good as well. There's lots of opportunity to further this interest, and this is the interest of all of us.
Truck tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
First truck with LSD molecules.
You want to bring it here, and then we can go out and do our segment beside the thing?
Week, yeah.
Sure, fantastic.
I'm going to drive the Beamer for a while.
All right, good. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So yeah, Jerry, is on this path because he wanted to provide access to people to medical cannabis in his community of Whitewood, Saskatchewan, in face of criminal prosecution and the criminal laws trying to prohibit such things, because it was the right thing to do. And we talk about that on the show every week, about why it's the right thing to do and how the attempt to over-regulate in this case and still continue to prohibit and have illegal cannabis during so-called legalization is wrong, and all of that stuff, because it is so important that we do this. And Jerry felt it was so important that he do what he did. And Saskatchewan is a very backwards place with respect to how much control the RCMP have. That is the training ground for RCMP. It's a small province, and these small communities are pretty well policed, and everybody behaves themselves other than drinking too much most of the time. But for him to do that there was very bold and brave, and questionable whether he would have success with such a regime in place and what have you. But what we've been doing here is trying to address an epidemic of overdose deaths that's been going on for 5 years. We've had a public health emergency with respect to people overdosing on a tainted drug supply for over 5 years. And the death toll is higher here in British Columbia for the overdose epidemic than it is for the corona pandemic. And it's extremely serious, and in fact, like I say, it's been going on for 5 years. You can't get vaccinated against it, and the government is not spending millions of dollars trying to do something about it. In fact, the government's policies are driving the whole situation, and while the community of people that are involved in the drug use that's at question here are screaming quite clearly for mechanisms to make it a much safer pursuit for people, and you know, harm reduction became the mantra of what we did here, because harm maximization seemed to be the model of the governments. That their idea that if people are involved in these substances that they have deemed to be illegal, hopefully for justified reasons of harm being done by the use of them, that their decision to harm people considerably more found in possession of these things than those things themselves would actually hurt them, has been the model that's been used for a long time. They threaten you with loss of your liberty, with loss of your property, with stigmatization, with loss of all kinds of things. And so, especially with respect to cannabis, using the criminal law and harsh penalties against people that are involved in helping people get cannabis or in possession of cannabis has been absolutely ridiculous. And it turns out that cannabis is actually a harm reduction tool. And that's what we learned many years here in Vancouver. 17 years ago, we opened the Herb School, 1 block over from where we are right now at Main and Hastings. And we learned there dramatically about how much cannabis helps people in their lives. And much more profoundly than that, we learned that cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles were quite capable of getting many people through that barrier of withdrawal, that physical pain and suffering that comes along with trying to stop the use of these opioids and other street drugs, that the cannabis edibles could mitigate those circumstances and get people through these withdrawal events. And that afterwards, cannabis, either in the form of edibles or concentrates, and sometimes even just smoked cannabis, which isn't enough to get through withdrawal, by the way, but it certainly is enough for many people after getting through withdrawal to replace the use of the other drugs they were using. And if not, then there's concentrates, and then of course there's edibles, which is a much more potent. Cannabis in the smoked form, you can green out and maybe even pass out if you smoke too much, but you won't have a bad experience. You'll wake up, might have a little bit of a cannabis hangover, but not really. You'll just wake up, actually you'll have a long sleep and a deep sleep and probably be quite refreshed. Cannabis edibles, on the other hand, a different form of consumption going through the liver rather than the blood into the bloodstream through the lungs, can last for hours. If you take too much of it, you can really feel uncomfortable, you can be not well, but the good news is it's never been fatal, and people do get over it maybe 2 or 3 days later in some cases, depending on how much you eat. But it is very crucial that when trying to use cannabis edibles, that you start low and then go slow until you find a dose that works well, and you put an hour or more in between those different times of taking it, just to make sure that you don't have that uncomfortable experience. Because the problem is, a lot of people, they try using cannabis edibles to do what I'm suggesting, and instead they eat too much, and it's a nasty experience, and then they decide never to do it again. And so we try hard here to make sure that doesn't happen. But in any case, here on the downtown east side of Vancouver, because of this overdose epidemic, and us understanding after having the Herb School about the value of edibles and cannabis to help people during this epidemic and get out of the risk, we approached City Council and offered to have a program of giving cannabis away to make it as easy as possible in the form of high-dose edibles. Did not get permission to do that. That was well over 4.5 years ago that we started that process, that I started that process. And we did it anyway, of course, because that's what you do. You have a solution to people dying, and just because the government doesn't seem to want to allow you to do that, you do it anyway. And we did, and continued to do it and evolve it. And thanks to an incredible amount of donators and volunteers and willing customers, although we never sold anything, everything was always given away in the form of care packs to people that would line up for hours twice a week outside of Vandu here at Main and Hastings. And the program was very successful. So many people had great things to say about how it was helping them. Lots of successes. We had Dr. M.J. Malloy study what we were doing and write studies about that were studied by Vancouver City Council to the point where they agreed that what was going on with providing cannabis to people was of value during this epidemic, and they eventually passed a motion to support what we called low barrier access. Turns out legalization is high barrier access, and that throws a number of people under the bus, especially the poor people and the sick people and the daily users and all, and just people who don't want to pay exorbitant prices for a plant. So anyway, we started this program. We got the support of Professor Malloy. We then got the support of City Council. City Council, we met with them, Jody Emery and myself, a member of the board from Bandu, a member of the Green Cross, all met. Had an understanding that what we've been doing in the community for decades here is assessing the needs that are here and responding. And in cases like the supervised injection facilities, these are things that were against federal criminal law, but necessary to be done to save the lives of people and to counter the harm maximization model that the government uses. And so the councillors understood that we would find a storefront, move our service indoors and provide even greater service with low-cost cannabis as well as no-cost cannabis. And we did that. But before the city would give us a license, they wanted the federal government to support us. So we put in an application to the federal government under an emergency basis to help us stave off eviction. And that was over 9 months ago now. And they're still working on it. Our last communication a few months ago was that they were diligently working on it, that they were still in discussions with the stakeholders and I'm sure the shareholders. Prior to that, we had a Zoom conference call with our lawyer and them, and such great thanks to John Conroy for doing what he's done for us over these last several months. It was 9 months ago that we completed, he and I, putting together this application to Health Canada. It's a very comprehensive application. It's very long. It's got a lot of stuff in there, and all of it makes it a slam dunk that cannabis should be made available at low cost and no cost in all of its forms, and especially in the form of high dose edibles, and that the supply need only be through trusted sources and private testing that can be easily done, as Jerry alluded to. And so we've been waiting all this time. In that meeting, that was just before Christmas last year, they said that they were sorry it had taken 3 months by that time, that they were going to be getting it done probably in early January, but because of COVID and the holidays, it might take that long. And that was then, and this is now, and early January has come and gone, and we're into late June now, and we're still hoping every day that today is the day that we'll hear that message, we'll get that email, they'll say we've decided that we're going to allow you to do what you're doing. In the meantime, we've been evicted, thrown out by a judge who said we were showing up in court with unclean hands, and so he couldn't support our application for just an adjournment for a length of time to get our licenses. Unclean hands because we had been providing cannabis as a life-saving tool to people that otherwise would have by now, many of them, been dead, and backed up by not just Dr. M.J. Malloy, but by Professor Zachary Walsh and others, that what we're doing here is saving lives, and that our program, where we have almost 300 people now getting 420 milligrams of high-dose edibles of their choosing every 4 days, that those people would be put at risk of death if we were to stop. And yet here we are, having put in a slam dunk application, having applied under an emergency basis, having had conversations with the federal health minister, we should be talking to the justice minister too, except it shouldn't be a justice issue at all. The only reason we're not granted the permission to do what we're doing, which we know is the right way to do and the things that need to be done for answering the issues within this community, we're the ones on the street, in the trenches, down here doing it every day. We've been here for years. I've been personally here for about 17 years, working down here on the downtown east side. I have a pretty firm knowledge and firm grasp of what it needs to be done to help the people here. If only we could get government support, we could do it in a much better way than we're doing it right now. But government support from any level is not here, except to say that the VPD, the Vancouver Police Department, after raiding us once by mistake 2 weeks after we moved out of the store and into an RV to continue, because we haven't stopped, we can't stop, we wouldn't stop. Now we're not doing it from a lineup outside of a storefront, we're doing it from an RV parked on the curb. We've been doing it like that and out of the storefront without missing a day, other than every Monday we're off here. But 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, we're here providing low cost and no cost cannabis to the neighborhood. And we're 1 block from the police station. And other than that one raid, which was the anti-vending unit that took all of our stuff, in a 15-minute raid, and wouldn't listen to me about why we were doing what we were doing and who supported us. Since, they haven't touched us, it's been, I think, 7 months now since we've had that happen, and we've had no interference whatsoever. I have had some conversations with Deputy Chief Steve Ray, who's been very supportive of our program. I met him when I presented this program to the Vancouver Police Board almost 5 years ago now. It wasn't in his command area when the raid happened. He was unaware of it. He since has orchestrated behind the scenes that we did have a conversation with the people in the area for the VPD, although that didn't go very well, but that's irrelevant, because I'm sure because of his influence and the influences of others, despite the warnings that we were given by the VPD during that conversation, it's been over 7 months now since that happened, and we have not stopped anything, and they've not come here to bother us. So we do have tacit approval, at least at that level. The city hasn't moved against us to stop us from, shilling weed out of the side of an RV on the curbside, which of course would be unheard of during days of just prohibition. So we've come a very long way. The fact that Mr. Conroy is so gracious in helping us the way that he has is testament to the fact that we are obviously on the right track, doing things right. The fact that so many people donate to what we're doing here to make sure that we're able to continue to help everybody that comes to us is a testament to just how much those people care about what we're doing, but also that we're doing the right things here as well. And the fact that it's taken the federal government over 9 months now, that they've still found no way to say no to us, I guess on the other side they haven't been able to say yes either, but the fact that they have not been able to say no to our application is a testament to the fact that we are doing things the right way. We are going to get permission to save people's lives, because it's ludicrous that we wouldn't. And it's more and more evident of that lunacy every single day that goes by, that we don't get that email saying you can do this. And so we continue on. We have serious hope that we're going to get that done. I didn't mention that we also formed a society, the Serious Hope Society, and have a great board and a great advisory board. And we know that we're going to succeed in doing this. We are doing things the right way, and eventually we'll get permission. So that's my update, which I do every week. And for those of you who are sick of hearing it, I'm sorry. Don't blame me. Write a letter to the federal health minister or to Health Canada, or a whole bunch of different people you could write letters to. But don't be mad at me. We decided to take this tact with the show because it was important. This is the biggest news story that's going on, really. The continued fight for legalization now is in the form of the fight for low barrier access. That's the new morphed term that tries to apply to what we're asking for. It's not hard to understand what we're asking for, but because we didn't ask properly, the response we got wasn't what we wanted. So legalize and regulate hasn't quite done it for us. Low barrier access might. And that's what we're fighting for. And until we stop that fight, until we win that fight, we won't stop. We'll stop when we win. Until we win, we're going to continue our course, and we're going to continue to use this platform to update every week the new people that are watching. And for those of you that want new updates every week of where we're at, we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to go see the RV now. But before I do that, I want to make sure to mention that we are not alone here in Vancouver either. That this program was initially taken to Victoria by Howard, the board member from Vandu, and it's been going over there ever since. They have permission from their city council. They work with the Victoria Police Department, also a VPD, and they're able to do what they do. They do it a little differently than us, but still they've been able to do that, and that was great that they managed to do that, and that they have a city council that's willing to work with them much more than we have here. But also it's gone from there. There's been other people that have been doing other things and giving out cannabis, some of it just anonymously that I'm not even aware of, but I have been made aware of other programs in other places. And there's 2 official cannabis substitution chapters that operate outside of Vancouver. One of them on the far east coast in Halifax, where Chris Backer has been doing it for over a year and a half, well into his 2nd year, and they've got it down there where they're giving out the care packs once a week to a long lineup of people. They've got good support from the community there, and who knows how that's going to evolve in the future, but they've been able to do what they're doing for all this length of time, and they're a real going concern there. And kudos to Chris and all the people in Halifax that are volunteering for that program and donating to that program and making it work. It is God's work, and it is the best work that could be done. It's really what we need on so many different levels in this mission of ours to find freedom and to get respect for us as individuals. And now Mary McCarty has left us. She was our head baker here for quite a while in Vancouver, and she's left us to go to London, Ontario, where she started a cannabis substitution program there. They had an event today with 200 people again. That's the usual number that they have. And all sorts of good things happening there. They're a full-blown cannabis substitution program right off the hop. I think it's been 7 or 8 weeks now. And kudos to Mary. Thank you, Mary. We miss you so much. Thank you for what you're doing there. Incredible work. I know you're starting to really feel it, like I felt it when I started putting this together. Having all these people be helped the way that they are, having so many people come out and want to help. It's just such an amazing experience, and I know, Mary, you're getting that now. I can feel it. I can see it in how you're reporting to me what's going on. I can hear it in your voice, and this is what happens. Giving back in ways like this, where you're able to make possibly such a great difference, is a fantastic thing. When you can save a person's life, if you've ever experienced that, and that sounds like you pulled them out of the river, right? Some people say, you're not saving people's lives just because you get them to switch off of hard drugs onto cannabis. Other people with serious medical conditions understand that cannabis absolutely saved their life at certain times. There are, and kids with serious epilepsy who have those seizures virtually stopped, if not stopped. There's many, and if that's not saving a person's life, I don't know what is. But also just understanding that the path that you were on was going to lead you into either death or a horrible existence, and to now be in a wonderful existence and really enjoying the wonders of life, and cannabis is a part of that, and cannabis helped you get there. And many people will tell you that cannabis is the reason that happened to them. Cannabis is the way that they got out of what they were into and onto a different path, and cannabis saved their life. And so I know, and I say it from my heart, and I believe it because I know it. I know people that wouldn't be here today without cannabis, and I know of the almost 300 people that are part of our program. Many of those people would have died, like their friends and other people in this neighborhood have died because of this fentanyl poisoning that's going on here, this drug poisoning of the drug supply. And why that's happening and who's doing that, I'm not sure. People typically don't want to kill their customers, but there are people who really hate drug users and those people that want drug freedom and freedom in general. And they really do have what it takes to poison a drug supply and kill the people involved. So I don't know what's going on here with that, but that is what's going on here. And we're just trying to answer back to that. We're trying to answer back to the poison drug supply, and we're trying to answer back to the harm maximization model, and we're trying to provide harm reduction, which we've done, by the way, which has been done on so many levels, by the way. The harm reduction societies in all of these troubled neighborhoods have huge leaps and bounds in being able to address the harm caused by these drugs, keep people alive, keep using them. Naloxone has saved so many people's lives. Granted, for them to go back and use again, and maybe eventually die even. But the truth is that there are many, many things that have been put in place to reduce the harm that is at the core of the justification for these laws against these drugs. So surely by now, they could reassess the policies of using the criminal law and the harm maximization model, reassess that to allow access to these substances that people are using anyway, legal or illegal. It's just that when they use them and they're illegal, they're put at great risk. And the harms that are potential there are much greater than if they had some sort of a reasonable supply available to them, regulated to the point where you can do as much good as you can. And when you get to that point of regulation, where you've put on as much restrictions or as much creative ways of making sure that people are educated about the use of that product and the right demographics are using for the right reasons, but you don't do it by the criminal law, you do it by education. When those things are in place, people get access. Anyway, we haven't come to that point yet because we're still struggling to get permission, and that's what's going on. So yeah, kudos to Chris and Mary, to the other cannabis substitution programs, to the people that have donated there and here for all of these years, that have made this a reality, that will eventually win this lousy war that was waged against us, that we've never asked for. That's kudos to all of you people who've been helping out to do that. Cannabis Day coming up, just over a week. I don't know what that means for you. I'm not even sure what it means for us. It does mean that here in Vancouver, where Cannabis Day has been a huge event for a long time, we are going to have a Cannabis Day. It's not going to be organized by the regular committee that does that. The health restrictions are going to be stepped back a little farther on July 1st, Cannabis Day, so I think we're going to be okay to have gatherings. We did it last year anyway, and we were pretty good about how that was handled. So I think we can do that and even a better job this year, and with even less reason this year, as it's going to be, masks can be burned or taken off or framed or whatever you feel is appropriate coming up July 1st. I hope we all do that. I hope we all learn that we can still hug each other and that other people's germs are good, and not be germaphobes for the rest of our lives because of this, because that's no way to live, and that will only cause us more problems with respect to germs. We need to learn to live with them and how to live with them, and that's by sharing small amounts of the germs that are around us in the environment, and by exposing ourselves to these things in the ways that our body is able to respond to them properly with our endocannabinoid system and our immune system. So there you go. Let's go see what's going on in the RV and how these wonderful people out there are doing. A beautiful and hot day in downtown Vancouver. How you doing, John? You having a good day? Yeah, you having a good day? That's good. Did you get your joint today? Yeah, all right, good stuff. Hey, Robert, you can point at him if you like. Robert Stafford, one of our wonderful donators. And George, everybody knows George.
We're discussing our melted gummies.
Oh yeah, we have melting gummies now. Yeah, we have issues here. We need to be back in the store, and we need to be able to do that properly. It's hard in the RV. It's hot in the RV.
They're melting so badly.
Yeah, so you got them all in the cooler in the fridge or something, right?
We're going to tonight, yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. We can't have melted gummies.
No, we're going to leave probably about 90% of them in there.
I'll take them all in there, and we'll bring them out.
The problem is it's during the day that they're going to be melted.
Yeah, and we'll put the cooler in there, and we can swap ice during the day. The freezer works really well. These are the measures that we're going to be taking. We just went through the winter here. That was pretty harsh as well. We survived it pretty nicely to be in an RV. We had propane heaters, so we could keep it fairly warm in there. But for our customers, it was really tough because they had to come and deal with us, at a side window of an RV or a back door of an RV. And on those rainy or cold days, it was tough for us to see that going on for them, and tough for them for sure. So please, government, please hurry up and give us just a temporary exemption from the current laws so that the city will give us a license so we can go back in the store. That'd be really nice. So here we are at the RV. This is Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm really good. You having a decent day?
Very warm, but yeah, surviving. I said, don't you give me a lily.
That does nothing.
It's a little bit warmer inside the RV than it is out here. A little bit.
Our little fans only do so much.
We get a little breeze coming through, but it's more out here. So yeah, are you going to survive it, you think?
I'm a little worried about July and August, yeah.
What's
To
the
be honest.
government doing for us?
What's the government doing for us? Yeah, well, that's what we've been talking about all day here on the show.
So we have to sit out here and suffer while they just sit there with their air conditioners and make up their mind.
Well, Andrew, I think maybe we could set up. I'm thinking if it gets too hot. Andrew, by the way, had his hair and makeup people work overtime last night. Never looked better a day in his life. We might set up a little table out here and not have you guys stuck inside. If it's going to continue to be considerably warmer inside than out, then we might do something like that. One way or another, we will make it through. And if the government just
dedicated we are.
yeah, and that's what I was going to say. If the government thinks they could freeze us out, nope. If they think they can boil us and sweat us out, just wait and watch. They couldn't raid us out of existence. That's what I told them very clearly. Was they threatened to arrest me, and I said, well, there's 10 people waiting in line to take my job. There's not a shortage of people that are going to want to continue to do what we're doing here, because there's people that care, and you might not care, but we got people who care.
Well, I've accidentally cut myself here, so I have literally put in my blood, my sweat, and my fucking tears. So,
we try not to cry too much.
They can't get rid of us.
We put a brave, smiling face for the people
Sometimes it's
for the most. But
joy, or if somebody tells us a really
there are sad stories.
Story
And we see things too that bring us to tears sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a tough neighborhood to be in.
Yeah. Like people would come up to us and say, "You're warm in there. How do you deal with it?" Well, the guy we're looking at that's saying that has a jacket on.
Yeah.
That's a lot to get.
So he knows it's hot.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us what's going on at the back door, Andrew?
He'll show you his melted gummies and everything.
Oh dear. This is where the CSP people access the program. And Andrew's got a huge selection of stuff for people that, pretty damn huge, I think, because it's all for free.
Yeah, this is what we have today. We have lots of gummies today.
So they get 420. What would that represent? Like, what are the milligrams of those things?
All these ones right here, the indica, sativa, and the half and half, and the half and half mango, and the sativa is half and half, the indica is half and half. Pineapple's full, and the raspberry's full indica.
Well, but the pineapple's full CBD.
Yes, it is.
And the other one, and the raspberry is full THC.
Yes, it is.
So what that does is it gives people a choice, from CBD to THC and from sativa to indica, so that they can figure out what works best for them. And then because they get to come and choose what they get here, we keep track of all of that. Every person, the 200 and whatever amount of people it is, 266 now. When they come to get their stuff, we write down everything that they chose so that we can decide, what people think works for them. And then in the store, we had a much more in-depth survey every time they came and got it. We don't do it here in the RV. Mostly that was because of the winter time. It was so cold or so wet, and we couldn't have people,
Some people ask me, can I have the same as I had last time, so I look up their name.
Yeah, and so you can tell them what they
I can
took.
tell them what they had last time.
Yeah, and then we can ask them, was all that stuff work for you? Was there anything you'd have like more of or anything you'd like less of? It really helps us help them.
Here at 80 milligrams.
Right? Those
I
look
got
delicious.
some caramels at 150 milligrams that haven't melted yet. I got some hard candy here at 75 milligrams. I got cubes, THC cubes, 50 milligrams each, so 2 in a package is 100. These have melted.
These are our most melty ones.
These were little teddy bear gummies at 5 milligrams each.
Right.
These are gummy balls at 5 milligrams each. There's
Right.
20 in there at 100 milligrams. These are brownies, they haven't melted. These are 80 milligrams. I have some pot leaves. I have 10 in there.
What are the milligrams on those?
They're, these ones, 20 milligrams each.
Right.
So there's 10 in there.
So that allows people to have a little bit less
And
of
I
those.
have
So like
some-
you say, those balls are only 5 milligrams.
Yeah.
So that allows people to moderate or modulate how much they use. There's a couple of people that are even, in wheelchairs that tell me that all they need is one of those balls every hour and they're basically good. Whereas other people, they need, a couple hundred milligrams every couple hours. So, yeah, and then there's other things, Andrew. You got
I
caps.
give out joints.
Everybody gets a
Everybody
joint.
gets a joint.
Yeah. And that's not part of the 420 milligrams. We don't
Ran out
count
of
that.
caps today.
Well, we have more.
Yes.
They're just in the shop.
Recently we just ran out of caps.
So we'll get to those in.
I've had
And,
quite a few people today, about over 20
And
people.
a nice donation from the Canadian Cannabis Centre to support what we're doing.
Yeah.
And now I've given those to someone, Carly is going to make some caps out of it.
Very nice.
So we'll
That's
get some
beautiful.
caps
That's
that
what
way
we're
as
looking
well.
for. Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Awesome job.
Very
man.
nice. Yeah,
Awesome
everybody's
job.
been great today.
Yeah.
Things are working out. It's hot in here, but we're still working it. That's what
Keep the door open.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. It stays open. Don't worry about it.
Only a little bit though. Yeah, maybe we need to.
We just let it go back and forth.
Okay, but there is a catch there that's supposed to work.
Yeah, it hasn't worked for quite a while. We're gonna have to fix that.
We're on a little bit of an angle. Well, all right, you guys, you ready? I hope you don't have your jackets on because it's going to be warm where we're going next. Yeah. There's people that pay money for saunas, and we get it for free here. A sauna with a breeze. There is a nice breeze that comes through sometimes, and sometimes there's no breeze that comes through. But right now where I'm sitting, I've got a good breeze coming from this window. You can feel it right.
You're in between
right
two windows,
there.
of course you're getting a breeze.
It's actually coming this way through that window. That's what I'm getting. Yeah. So yeah.
And the only
Anyway,
breeze
we're
I'm
not
getting
here to
is the fan.
we're not here to complain about it being too hot. We're here to complain about a stupid, hypocritical drug war that makes no sense for any logical human being, but it makes a bunch of sense for people that just want to collect those cents in the form of dollars, and they don't care who is harmed in the process. So screw all those people, and that's what we do care about. We'll make it through the heat. It's hot wherever you are, unless you got an air conditioner to sit beside. And yeah, if we were in the store, we'd have the air conditioner going on.
See you later, brother.
So Jen Nelson, what's new with you? Should I tell him?
What?
Jen Nelson was afflicted with this horrible disease of being addicted to cigarettes for a long time. She tried to quit, she wanted to quit, it was very difficult, but strength lies within if you seek it. I believe it. I believe all you people who want to quit smoking can if you want. You are tough enough. Don't believe the government and the cigarette companies when they say it's too addictive to quit. That's also part of their scheme to keep people addicted, because it's a psychological thing that if you think it's too addictive to quit, you think you won't be able to quit, so you don't quit. You can quit. If you realize that it's terrible, that it kills, by their records, about 5 million people every 12 months die specifically from smoking commercial tobacco. As I mentioned earlier in the show, it's the #1 reason for hospitalizations in Canada. It doesn't have much redeeming value. I get it. It can give you a little bit of calm, or some people like it after stressful events, and there's other things people like it after after eating or having sex or things like that. You get into these ways where it's a part of the things that you like. It's really not the smoking that you liked. It's the fact that you had sex. That's what you like. Now you're smoking a cigarette, thinking about how you feel because you just had sex, and those two things become associated. And they reinforce that by showing sexy people smoking, or people smoking after sex, or making it look cool and all the rest of that. But for those of you who want to quit, my advice is, for me personally, the way I think I've helped some people quit smoking, is to convince them that it's not worth the money. It's not very nice that they make it addictive on purpose. It is extremely harmful and deadly to many people over long-term use. That women that are long-term users of commercial tobacco will be 50% more likely to get breast cancer. I mean, that should be enough to scare people from smoking cigarettes. But large corporations are making big money on cigarettes, and it was a counterculture, rebellious thing, even though it wasn't illegal back in the day. And there's still some of that coolness associated in some groups and some groups of people. But really, the smell of stale smoke is disgusting. It turns most people off. It really reduces the dating pool. It kills people. It's addictive. It costs money. Blah, 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 blah. My point is, my advice, if you want to quit smoking, learn to hate it. See yourself as a non-smoker. Feel yourself being proud of yourself for being a non-smoker and healthy and clean. Because the older you get, the more you need to think about that stuff for sure. And so Jen Nelson quit smoking, and George also quit smoking. Actually, the day before Jen quit smoking, because he's like that.
Why did you beat me to the punch?
He did. You can see it. He took great pride in that. Yeah? You think you're going to smoke? I told you maybe I'd quit if you quit.
I kept asking her how many smokes she got left. I was going, okay, I got 2 packs left. I'm going to make it till Friday. So I made it till Friday, and then no more smokes.
I
No,
see.
you quit on Saturday.
So
Saturday
what?
was
Well, I
the
ran out of smokes on Friday.
So-
no, you smoked on Saturday.
Yeah, well.
You haven't bought any more smokes?
Oh, I have bought nothing.
You haven't bought any more smokes?
No. And I tell people not to smoke at the
What are
window
you
as
doing
well.
with the money you're saving? Have you got a little jar that you're putting it in? Because it's nice to know how much you're saving.
See, my saving grace is I've just been buying weed. And every time I wanted to have a cigarette, I rolled a joint. Smoked
There you
a
go.
joint instead.
But I'm just saying, if you kept track of that money, if every time you would normally buy a pack of cigarettes, you just put some money in a jar,
Yeah.
it wouldn't take too long, and you'll have quite a nice little pack of money. Well, speaking of George, hi Patty. Hey Patty,
Yes.
say hi to the folks on Pot TV.
Hi, Pot TV.
There you go.
CSP though as well.
Patty's been a huge supporter of ours for all these years. She's George's partner there, and she's helped George help us, I guess.
My family died from smoking. My uncle used to smoke cigars and pipes, and my aunt died. I used to go to my mom. I used to go to my dad's mom, and every time you went and opened the door in England, it would smell. And then when you go into the front room, the walls were thick, and she was in a wheelchair from smoking.
The walls were thick
with
with
tar.
yellow tar.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Because
Now
having
that's-
thick walls, I mean, you know, it's not.
That's the results of smoking.
It is. I've seen that so
That's
many
what
times.
happened.
I worked for insurance companies for a long time, and we'd go into all kinds of different people's homes. Lots of times, boy, the people that were chronic smokers.
I passed out with a cigarette and caused a fire.
Yeah, I dealt with lots of that too. You would think that with the actual problems that there are with cigarettes, that the government would be a little more strict about where you can buy those things, eh?
Yeah,
Like, the fact that they're available in every gas station, corner store, everywhere. I mean, they used to be in drugstores. Now some drugstores don't sell them, I'm told.
buy them on the street.
But you can buy them, and you can buy them on the street too. And there are illegal cigarettes. But the government doesn't care much about that. You never hear about that. That's not really a thing. Yeah, the thing is cannabis, and cannabis doesn't hurt people, and cigarettes hurt people. And the reason that cannabis is such a thing that they're worried about trying to protect you from is because it's not about protecting you from cannabis. Trillions of doses of cannabis have been consumed since the days of prohibition, and there are not anybody to stand up, or very few. I mean, it's so rare that people would say that cannabis hurt them in any way, and so common for the vast majority, 90 percentile of people will tell you cannabis helped them big time in their lives. The people that didn't help, that's fine. It's an individual thing. It doesn't help everybody, I'm sure. Or people have bad experiences with the edibles, or they believe the propaganda, or maybe smoking just isn't for them, or maybe they're healthy and they don't need any help with anything, or maybe they don't want to enhance anything in their life, or who knows what, who knows why, who flipping cares is the point. It's nobody's business but yours. Whatever you do in your life, it's nobody's business but yours. If we're going to have public servants and be a mature group of people in a society that have a democracy that makes sense, where no percentage of people get to overrule the rights of any percentage of people. That never happens. But we as a group and a good population of thinking people can put together a government of public servants that can help us with all the things that we agree that we want help with, and get the hell out of our other parts of our lives. The government has no business in people's bedrooms. Trudeau declared that way back in the day. Well, they have no business in people's grow rooms either. And they have no business in people's heads either. They have no business in our business. We would like to have public servants facilitate some of our endeavors, some of our business endeavors, to help us to get together and help people, and help people get what they want and need. And all of that kind of stuff can be a part of what we want governments to do. And we want it bad enough that we're willing to pay them a good salary to do it. But we don't need parents. We don't need people that can be bought by corporations through threats and bribes, and then exploit us on behalf of those corporate and financial elites' wishes. That's what we don't need. That's what's messing everything up here. That's what's wrong with what's happening in this world of ours and this society of ours at this time in history. Is the financial elite, the corporate elite, have gotten a hold of the peoples of this planet. And they've had it for a long time, because these are the kings and the queens and the dictators and all those people that have taken over masses of people in the past. The people with all the leverage, all the connections, and without the ethics, that have been exploiting the masses of people on this planet for millennia. It's still going on, and we could rise above it. they've at least allowed us enough ground for us to be told the illusion of freedom, that they tell us that we're free, that they're servants, that we get to elect them. But when you really look at how it works, and that these people aren't limited in what they do, and they do it behind closed doors, and they do it without accountability, and they do it on the behalf of people who are the enemy of us, well, that's when this system needs to change. And we need to rethink what democracy is all about. And I hope that we can get there. That is my bottom line of what I'm really trying to achieve, is freedom for individuals by respect of public servants for each individual sovereign person, and then a world that flows out of that, which should be a world of people living in mutual respect and tolerance and kindness, and not having to fight government and be afraid of police and live with gangs and all of the other things that are here, all because of bad government policy and a bad system that we've allowed to exist. And I know it's hard to change, and I'm not sure how we do it. Whatever way you think you can, we need your help. We need little bits of help. We need a whole bunch of every one of us to come and give what they can give. And then we can maybe bring this to a position where we can have a mature society of people with respect for each other and paid public servants who facilitate business between people, who regulate dangerous things in reasonable, creative ways that make sense, and who absolutely never, ever cave to the corporate agenda. And that is recognized as their main job in life. So I think we can get this if we try. I think there's ways to do it with respect to writing letters, making phone calls, talking amongst ourselves, making signs, going to events, creating events, having rallies, using social media, and many, many other things. And you people are all creative in your own ways, and you know maybe a niche that you have, an in that you have a way to talk to somebody in media that can make a difference, or in government that can make a difference, or some way that makes a difference. Whatever you can do, please do it. Please help us get out of this mess before it gets much more worse than it is. If you can force government on our behalf to allow for low barrier access to cannabis, that's my way of getting us a few steps closer to that ideal of limited, accountable, transparent public servants respecting individual sovereignty. So that's a way that you can help. There's other ways as well. There's other campaigns. There's other ways that we're not free in this society. This is the one that I've chosen. This, for me, is the most glaring example of how we're not free, and the one that if we can really overturn it and get proper respect for cannabis in the marketplace as a simple plant that grows easily, but that has all of these benefits and is allowed to be used for all of those things, that we'll have a much better world not far down the road when that happens. So that's what I'm working for. I hope you're working for similar things. I hope whatever you're doing, you're being good and kind in your life, that you're enjoying your life, that you're appreciating the wonders of life and helping where you can. And of course, as I always say, no matter what, as you go through it, have as much fun as you can and spread the love.